Well, I had a plan for what I was going to talk about, but then a friend of mine called and desperately asked me to talk about anything else. So I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Jason's still in India. I have no idea what Max is doing. I met up with Rabbi with No Knife today. He is a genuine human being and a genuine Hasidic rabbi, believe it or not. It was very, very interesting meeting up with a genuine Hasidic rabbi in the in the religious neighborhoods of Los Angeles. He wears a Shtreimel. He wears a Shtreimel on Shabbos. Can you believe that? A Shtreimel. It really bottles in the heat. I've never actually worn a Shtreimel. Does it? Let's look at what you call it has on Shtreimel. 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 Oh, it's a George Costanza quote? I could believe it. This is according to Wikipedia. A Shtreimel is a fur hat worn by some Ashkenazi Jewish men. I know some Sephardic Jewish men who wear it. Mainly members of Hasidic Judaism on Shabbat and Jewish holidays and other festive occasions. In Jerusalem, the Shtreimel is also worn by Litvak Jews, non-Hasidim, who belong to the original Ashkenazi community of Jerusalem, also known as Perushim. Yeah, Toldot Aaron wear Shtreimel, and Yerushalmi Levush. That's a really pretty Shtreimel right there. The Shtreimel is generally worn after marriage, although it may be worn by boys after bar mitzvah age in some communities. I don't know any communities that wear it at bar mitzvah. There is speculation surrounding the origin of the Shtreimel. Different theories hold that it is of Tatar, Turkish, Russian, or Polish origin, but it is not possible to establish a clear chronology. The common view is that the Shtreimel was adapted by Jews living in Europe as a warm winter hat, possibly inspired by nobility. The Shtreimel is comparable in construction to fur hats historically worn by nobles or Gentiles across Europe and Russia. According to the Jewish Historical Institute in Warsaw, the Shtreimel could come from a period in the 17th century when Oriental customs were considered fashionable by the nobility of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Sarmatism. One legend says that the initial reason for adopting the Shtreimel was that the Jews were forced to wear an animal tail as a public humiliation. Okay. Types of Shtreimel. Shtreimels Shtreimel is how you say it in Yiddish. Worn by the Hasidim of Galicia, Romania, and Hungary, and Lithuanian Jews up until the 20th century, were made of a large circular piece of black velvet surrounded by fur. Hasidim originating from Congress, Poland. I have no idea where Congress, Poland is. Or Russian Poland, formerly known as the Kingdom of Poland. Okay. Where a high Shtreimel, often called a spodek, Ger Hasidim wear a spodek. The Shtreimel of the rabbis of Ruzhin and Skolia dynasties is pointed upward. Oh, and there's Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the Tzemach Tzedek, wearing a Shtreimel. In Chabad, only the Rebbeim wore Shtreimel. And the Frierdiker Rebbe did wear one, but the Rebbe never wore one. And people did try to buy him a Shtreimel, but the Rebbe refused. Symbolism. While there's a strong religious custom for Jewish males to cover their heads, from the standpoint of Jewish law, there is no religious significance to the use of the Shtreimel as the head covering. However, the wearing of two coverings, the Shtreimel is always worn over a yarmulke, is considered to add additional spiritual merit. Plus, the presence of beautiful craftsmanship adds beautification and honor to the custom. Such headgear is worn on special occasions, such as Shabbat, in the synagogue, or by office holders, such as rabbis. According to Rabbi Aaron Wertheim, I have no idea who that is, Rabbi Pinchas of Koretz stated that the acronym for Shabbos is Shtreimel b'makom tefillin. The Shtreimel takes the place of tefillin. Well, I mean, Shtreimels are worn on those days we don't wear tefillin, although people still wear it on Purim and Hanukkah and other days when we do wear tefillin. Since wearing special clothing on Shabbat is a form of sanctification, among the Hasidim of Galicia and Hungary, the Shtreimel is associated with the holiness of Shabbat, a crown such as that worn by royalty, which enhances and beautifies Shabbat. Arnon, I have no idea who that is. Must be somebody they talked about earlier. Asserts that the number of furs used in the manufacture of the Shtreimel has some significance. Common numbers are 13, 18, and 26, correspondingly respectively to the 13 attributes of mercy, the numerical value of the word for life, chai, and the numerical value of the tetragrammaton. Contemporary Shtreimel may include higher numbers of tails. At least one maker creates Shtreimel with 42 tails, symbolizing the 42-letter divine name. Male Orthodox Jews can be highly conservative regarding headgear, and some traditional Jews still wear fedoras or Homburgs. Although the traditional Jewish headgear is of Gentile origin and has specific historical and geographic roots, it continues to be worn by traditional Jews, even when non-Jews in the country of origin have long stopped wearing it. What they don't mention is several rabbis have made edicts in their communities that Shtreimel, because they are so expensive when they are made with actual fur, may no longer be made with actual fur in many communities. if I remember correctly, the Rebbe of Ger set a 600 shekel maximum on the price of a spodek, which was significantly less than some people would spend. So the tradition is that your father-in-law buys the Shtreimel for you, and so people will often spend thousands of dollars on it. What does Judaism say about natural law? Generally, we believe in natural law. Who is Mark Passio? Mark Passio, who are you? I have no idea who Mark Passio is. Derech Eretz Kadma LaTorah, and Derech Eretz can be translated as natural law. So we do believe there is natural law. Musar equals Jewish ethics that come out of rabbinic understanding. So the Musar movement is a movement that arose in reaction to the Hasidic movement in those communities which were not Hasidic, because Hasidism taught that people should be more aware of and focused on love and fear of God. And it was very effective in getting Hasidic communities to be more focused on love and fear of God. In response, non-Hasidic yeshivas started also having what's called Musar shmoozes, which was the rabbi would also try to stir people up towards repentance, etc. And that became known as the Musar movement. And eventually it became further broadened to when in modern Hebrew the term Musar has come to mean ethics. And so here, this is the Sefaria front page, and it has various sections of the library. So Tanakh is the 24 books of the Bible. Mishnah is a mnemonic poem by Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, Rabbi Judah the Prince, and it is supposed to encompass and remind us of the entirety of the Jewish of the oral law. The Talmud is the debate of the meaning of the Mishnah. There are two Talmuds, the Jerusalem Talmud, or also referred to as the Palestinian Talmud, and the Babylonian Talmud. The Babylonian Talmud was written later and is considered more authoritative than the Jerusalem Talmud. And when people say Talmud, they usually mean the Babylonian Talmud. Midrash are various collections of sayings and teachings from the rabbis quoted in the Mishnah. Although the collections tend to be late, the provenance of the actual teachings tend to be older than the Talmud. Halacha, these are books of codifying Jewish law. Kabbalah are books of Jewish mysticism. Liturgy, those are liturgical books. And then you get this, okay, Tosefta is those teachings in the Mishnah, those teachings of people around the time of the Mishnah, which were not included in the Mishnah. Responsa are questions and answers. Responsa literature is actually very important to Judaism. And then they have Second Temple and reference. Now, these three categories here, Musar, Hasidut, and Jewish thought, they're kind of vague, nebulous distinctions that really have to do with historical, what they came out of. So the Hasidic movement started in the 18th century, was a revival movement, and there were rabbis who taught things in Hasidic movement. Jewish thought, they're including everything that was similar but predates Hasidic movement. And by Musar, they mean basically everything that was written kind of in response to the Hasidic movement. So you could kind of say they're splitting into before Hasidic, and response to Hasidic. And that's what they genuinely mean by, that's how you can really tell what's going to be in which category. But they can't say that because that would admit that the Hasidic movement has basically guided Judaism for the past 200 years. I hope that was useful. Confessing Exalter says, "Hi, I'm a Christian who's looking for a beginner but robust Jewish Bible study book." Beginner but robust. So Kahat just republished Rabbi Jonathan Sacks's Torah Studies, which is an adaptation of, and it's on sale. I believe it's still on sale. Let's see. No, I think their sale's over. Sorry, you're gonna have to buy it full price. It's actually available online for free, but if you want the physical book, yeah, it's back up to $30. So here it is, Torah Studies by Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. I highly recommend it. I don't know. Is it really a beginner's? Yeah, I think it's something that you can start off with. It was on sale for 40% off earlier this week, and it probably will go back on sale. When's the next sale they're gonna have? They might have something like a Passover sale, but I don't know if it's going to be 40% off. Honestly, if the price is the issue, the entire text is available on Chabad.org. Here, I will find it for you. Torah Studies, Chabad. Yep, this is it. Here is the link. Rabbi Mullet! I hate to tell you this, Rabbi Mullet, but you've been surpassed and superseded as rabbi of this community. We have a new rabbi here. He is Rav Mora Hora, who received his ordination from Beis Hora'ah of Rabbi Stern. Here, let me go find it. Rabbi Shmuel Stern, I believe his name is. Rabbi Shmuel Eliezer Stern of Bnei Brak. I actually went to Mincha with him today, and he's a genuine, actual rabbi, and he also has been very involved on the Discord server, which you never were, so I have to say, thank you. I'm tired of learning about Judaism from Christians. Oftentimes it can be a bit biased. You don't say, my dear friend. I'm humbly stepped down from the post. I'm not sure I ever really took it up. Yeah, that's basically what happened. He's actually a nice guy, except for the fact he doesn't believe in the Zohar. Yeah. I don't know. But who am I to say? Yeah. So he's actually very active on Twitter and Discord. For a Hasidic rabbi, this is shocking. But he's active both on... he goes by... a guy from Bnei Brak that doesn't believe in the Zohar. That's what... Yeah. I don't know if... Honestly, I have to say... I don't know if he openly admits this in public to other people. You can't be Hasidic and not believe in Zohar. This is my thinking. I mean, he davens at Young Israel. Yeah, he davens at Young Israel, and he davens Nusach Ashkenaz. And he davens Nusach Ashkenaz because he doesn't believe in because he doesn't believe in the Zohar. But he still says Brit Shemay and Lachat Adi because he's like, they're still good. Then he's not Hasidic. I mean, he wears a Shtreimel and he comes from a Hasidic family. Yeah, but he davens Ashkenaz. Well, yes, I mean, I only spoke to him briefly about various stuff, but I went to meet up with him because I wanted to make sure that he's a genuine, actual person before I believed him that he received that he has smicha from Rav Stern and Bnei Brak, but he seems like a genuine person who actually knows his Torah. And who am I to say? I mean, yeah. You need to clarify what is meant by doesn't believe in. I think he needs to clarify that, honestly. yeah, I was like, what is going on here? But that's why he switched to Nusachari, Ashkenaz, apparently. No, he is part of the Jewish community in Los Angeles. He would not be. I went to shul with him. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, he's not the type of person. Like, I would be very, very shocked if his. Yeah, I mean, if it had been revoked, we would know, wouldn't we? I mean, unless things have changed a lot since I was I mean, I can. Here, I will email you the information I have about this guy. Because he doesn't, I mean, I don't, he has a, what should we call it? He has a podcast and he has a blog, but both of those are anonymous. So I am sending you his Twitter. And I am sending you his blog.
What in the world?
Max, who let you on here?
Souls of animals.
Oh, yeah. So you know Jonathan Gordon, right?
Jonathan Gordon. Yeah, I do. Yeah, John, of course.
Yeah. So he won't let me, like, when I sent him a thing, I'm like, hey, I'm going to talk about this thing you're really interested in. And he's like, no, Jacob, please don't, please don't. I'm like, why? And he's like, if you talk about it, somebody else is going to write the book that I'm going to write. Like, nobody else is going to write the book you're going to write. It's like, no, you may not speak about your translation of this letter.
The Rebbe's letter.
Rebbe Maharash.
The Rebbe Maharash's letter.
Yeah, he's like, he's taking my translation and turning it into a book, and he doesn't, and he's like, he's very excited about it. I told him I am giving him until next September, and then I am going to go back to talking about it, because, like, he can have my translation. It's Torah. I have no copyright, but he's like, no, I don't want you talking about it. Like, okay.
Interesting. Wow. Well, good on him. You know, when he finishes the book, that'll be one book that he's written that I haven't.
It will be one book that he's written that I haven't either. Yeah, I will.
You know, for a while I wasn't. This is totally unrelated. But,
hold on, Max. I need to finish. So, Rabbi Mullet, I sent you all the information I have about this person. So, if there's checking that needs to be done, you can check. And yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm friends with Mike Moskowitz. I also am a Talmud of the same Talmud Chacham who gave him smicha, and I know he revoked it. I have no idea who Mike Moskowitz is. Mike.
Transgender rabbi.
Oh, okay. So, like, I'm not talking about somebody who Chalila V'chas did anything like that.
Trans allyship. Uh-oh.
Yeah. We're that's not what we're talking about. No. This guy, like, I met up with him. Like, he davens in a normal shul. He lives in the normal frum community. Apparently, he works with one of the frum cemeteries, and he's the rav there. He's a rav at a frum burial society. Not the Chevra Kadisha, but a Frum burial society here in Los Angeles. And he seems to come from a Chashuva family, as far as I know.
Oh.
I'm the rabbi this channel needs, but not the one it deserves or something. My point is people change, and the rabbis who gave smicha don't always continue to support these changes came to light. Yeah, okay, I have to say, like, despite the changes, he's a Talmud Chacham, as far as I know, who's Shomer Shabbat, who's Shomer Torah Mitzvahs, as far as I mean, as much as somebody who Chalila B'chas doesn't believe in the Zohar can be considered a Shomer Torah Mitzvahs. I mean, he's not a Zionist, Baruch Hashem. At least he's not a Zionist.
You need a new issue.
I'm not saying you can't be an Orthodox rabbi and not believe in Zohar, just not sure who gave him smicha would stand by that if he doesn't believe in Zohar. Yeah. Okay, I sent you all the information I have on this man, including his name. If you wanna check. And I don't know that he goes around like teaching Beferish, but like, okay. Yeah, look, it's not easy to find a Rav Mora Hora who's active on Discord. Let's just put it that way. Okay, Rabbi Mullet ain't going down that fight. Okay, what? I ran over a squirrel once. Do I need to pray for him?
No.
You don't need to pray for him. But you should recognize that mi rasha yetzer rasha, and if the death of a squirrel came at your hands, then you need to repent. So what were you saying, Max?
Nothing. Well, I'll tell you. For a while I was.
By the way, as my Secret Santa. My name wasn't on the package I sent you. I don't know why your name's on the package you sent me.
Well, because by the time you have the package, it's not secret.
It isn't?
Well, no.
How'd you know I was your Secret Santa?
Because your name was on it.
Was it?
Yes, and then you told me I'm not supposed to tell you that I'm your Secret Santa, but I knew that you were my Secret Santa.
Really? My name was on the package?
Yeah.
I didn't put it anywhere on the package.
The address that I put is not actually my address, my parents' address, because I can't really mail is a hassle here.
Right.
And my mom said somebody named Jacob sent you a package. So that can only be, yeah. And then I received said package, and I have it here. And I.
But I put your name on the thing.
Look, the Abishter's.
The Abishter
he decides these things. I mean,
yeah.
But what I was going to say, there's a book that for a while I wasn't, if I could say such a thing, I wasn't on fire for it like I was maybe like a year ago. And like 2 days ago. Is that
the book you got me or the book I got you?
No, it's this book.
Likutei
this is one of the most
Tanya.
Incredible things I've like. That's such a like duh thing to say, and it is my bread and butter in this. If I could say such a like, it's not like new in the way that it is, but like I just
hold on. But you don't read Hebrew.
But I'm getting better at reading Hebrew to the point where I could read, I can read.
But that's a Hebrew only version of Tanya.
Yeah, I can read. Like I can read the chapters that I know what is being said, and then it's like, oh, like chapter 11.
Wow, you must be really smart, much smarter than I thought you were.
Thank you. No, I'm saying like this morning, I woke up, and I was like yesterday I looked at Pericolam of Tanya, and then today I was like, I'm going to like force myself to read out of this like ridiculously poor print. And I actually like read Perek Lamed Vav of Tanya, and I knew what I was saying. And then I also was
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. And I was also thinking about what Perek Lamed Vav of Tanya says, and I could not believe that somebody came and articulated what he articulates in that chapter.
Why?
All of Tanya folds into that. I just think that once you understand the Inyan of Dir B'Tachtonim properly, the rest of the book kind of becomes alive in a real way. I feel like the first 35 chapters are introductory in a real way.
Perek Lamed Vav. It's one of the shorter parakim. Vehine mudat zot. Ma'amar Razal shetachlit briat olam hazeh hu shenit'ava hakadosh baruch hu lihiyot lo dirach b'tachtonim. Vehine lo shayach lefanav yitbarach bechinat mala v'mata ki hu yitbarach mimala kol almin b'shavet. Ela bi'ur ha'inyan ki kodem shenivra ha'olam haya hu levado yitbarach יחיד ומיוחד וממלא כל המקום הזה שברא בו העולם וגם עתה כן הוא לפניו יתברך רק שהשינוי הוא אל המקבלים חיותו ואורו יתברך שמקבלים על ידי לבושים רבים המכסים ומסתירים אורו יתברך כדכתיב כי לא יראנה האדם וחי בפירוש רז"ל, שאפילו מלאכים הנקראים חיות, אין רואים חולו, וזהו עניין השתלשלות העולמות, וירידתם ממדרגה למדרגה, על ידי ריבוי הלבושים מסתירים האור, והחיות שממנו יתברך עד שנברא עולם הזה הגשמי, והחומרי ממש, והוא התחתון כמדרגת במדרגה שאין תחתון למטה ממנו, בעניין הסתר אורו יתברך וחושך כפול ומכופל, עד שהוא מלא קליפות וסטרא אחרא, שהן נגד השם ממש, לומר אני ואפסי עוד. Yeah, but he's saying this against, this is very clearly his explanation against the Shita of the Vilna Gaon of Tzimtzum Kipshuta.
I wouldn't. That's true. That's not kind of what jumps out at me.
No,
I don't see this as the place where it's the most obviously, what's the word, polemical against, there's a paragraph.
It's not polemical, but as we know it, who am I to say what the Vilna Gaon's understanding of Tzimtzum Kipshuta was? But as we understand the Machloket, the Vilna Gaon and his students said that Tzimtzum isn't only Mitzad HaMakabel.
Yeah, well, but again, I think the chapter where that is dealt with most explicitly, I think it's Perek Tet of Shar HaYichud VeEmunah.
Okay,
where he actually says
can cite chapters of Tanya. I can't cite where in Tanya something.
I might
You're
be
a lot
wrong.
Smarter than I am, and you have a much better memory than I do.
No, thanks, but no thanks.
I love Shar Yichud VeEmunah. It's my favorite part of Tanya. If it was up to me, we would just study Shar Yichud VeEmunah the whole year round.
Hold on. I want to say it's chapter 9. I do need to read in English. Hashem Yerachem.
Hashem Yerachem Aleinu ve'al Amo Yisrael.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. So it's on page Pei Zayin of Shar Yichud VeEmunah. He has a long note where he talks about the Kalim de Chabad Az Shayich Lomer Mashakasav HaRambam, as it's written in the Rambam, that the intellect is the Ein Sof.
Hold on, I'm looking at Pei Zayin, and he starts off.
Huh? Wait, what? To the intellectuals of Kabbalah. Yeah, us.
He starts off with saying, well, we're not talking about actual Kabbalah. We have nothing to actually teach about. Hey, Fuad, you should jump on. I guess if I'm not going to talk about the souls of animals, I could talk about Zionism. God.
I'm not even here for very long, and I certainly don't want to talk about the aforementioned topics. I'm just all I'm coming to say is the Tanya is an incredible book, and
I agree.
And no, but read the notes. Let's hold
read
on. Let's
the notes.
Read the note on
like,
Pei Zion.
This is Shar Yichud ve'Amuna, and you want me to read the note?
No, the
you
note
realize
in the text.
The notes are for the Kabbalists.
What?
The notes in Tanya are the Kabbalistic notes for the people who like.
But it isn't because you and I know what we're talking about, and
I have no idea what I'm talking about when I read Tanya, much less the notes. Rabbi Mullet, despite the fact that my friends told me I'm not allowed to actually talk about the letter of the Rebbe Maharash, it's in the description. The original letter is so there's a whatchamacallit to the original letter link to the original letter. The letter is Nun Dalet 54 and starts on page 92 Tzamach Bet, and it's a Moradika letter. I translated it to English actually, and you can look at my English translation and see how bad it is, but yeah, talking about the souls of animals, and it will blow your socks off. Okay, so let's read this Haggah, like this note. Hashem should forgive me for thinking that I can translate.
What are you talking? Like it's okay. Go.
Sod hatzimtzum, or ein sof baruch. The secret of the constriction of the lights of the Infinite One, blessed be He. V'tzimtzum Adam Kadmon, and the constrictions as it relates to primordial man. V'tzod hadikna shesod kol tzimtzumim, and whatever this means, the mystery of the beard. Yeah. That the mystery of all of the constrictions are a constriction in the light, that it should be enclosed in an aspect of vessels of the 10 sfirot, vehine achad, and after they have been enclosed, that the light of the Infinite One has been enclosed in
the vessels of Chabad.
Of Chabad.
This is, yeah, you know what these words mean.
Excuse me, do you have any idea what Sod de Dikna is?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Shut up.
It's right here in English even.
The mystery of the beard? What is the mystery of the beard?
The mystery of the beard is that there's two levels of the Or Ein Sof. And basically, there's the Or Ein Sof from the perspective of Hashem Ba'atzmo Kvodo. And there's the element of Or Ein Sof as it's Ein Sof from Me'artzidenu, from our perspective, which is that we use language and lashonot, and
if that is the mystery of the beard,
and analogies to understand the infinite. Whereas from Hashem's perspective, it's
what does that have to do with a beard?
Wait, so the beard is what comes down from Adam Kadmon. It's the way in which the Kesser that's even above the Kesser of the Eitz Chaim, like it's the thing that it's referencing. Because from our perspective, we use language and mushals, not from God's perspective. So the beard, as it says in this English note for stupid American people, okay, The realm following Adam Kadmon and preceding Atzilut is called the Keter, is called the crown, the powerfully contracted light which issues from it into Atzilut is brought forward to bring forth the Sfirot, or attributes, is denoted as the Dikna. It's the referent of our human language and the fact that we are mitzamtzem Hashem kavyachol into lashonot.
We are mitzamtzem Hashem chas v'chalila.
I said kavyachol. You deaf man. You like the deaf beggar in Rabbi Nachman. Listen.
I am deaf. Yes, I don't understand
mitzamtzem
this.
Hashem into dibur.
Shavua Tov, Kirk. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am wondering at how Mr. Max here knows so much about the Kabbalah.
This is not.
I'm just going to be a little bit quiet here, but I just want to say, have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look, it's not the Iker is not the beginning of the note. The Iker is at the bottom when he says, and I'll read in English.
And just so I know, is there any problem with me being here? Because I understand there's some
No.
If you're quiet, it's perfect.
No,
The
it's more
only
about
time there are
halacha.
problems is sometimes you start moving us into like discussions that are completely off the tangent and like places that are like, Kirk, okay, I need you to stop.
Okay,
So-
it's just I don't know if there's any restriction on Noahides hearing this type of Torah.
So as long as so if you're asking whether a Noahide should be listening to Shar Yichud Ve'emunah, to the extent that it inspires love and fear of God in you, then it is shayach to it is something that you may listen to. Although again, as Rabbi Mullet has is very so. I mean, honestly, like I would not be talking about the Haggah just myself. Who am I to speak about notes in Tanya? But Max apparently knows this stuff.
No.
And he is one of the great sages of this generation and can explain this stuff.
No. I am a simple chassid of the Rebbe Rav Ittamar Morgenstern Shlita.
He should live and be well.
He should live and be
Which
well.
Rebbe is that?
Yitzhak Meir Morgenstern. He's a Kabbalist. He lives in Israel, and I'm
Of a
his
specific dynasty?
He's a Ger chassid, but he's kind of has his own derech halimud, his own kind of path that he's formed. That's very, if I could use a word to describe it or a phrase, he enters into the sugyas of Kabbalah. He enters into the prate pratam, the very particular technical elements of Kabbalah, and shows how all of the philosophies in Jewish mystical thought are all coming to say the same thing. So where some thinkers might emphasize everybody is saying the same thing, period, Rav Ittamar says, I'm going to show you in the texts themselves how, for example, the Baal HaTanya and the Vilna Gaon are actually saying the exact same thing. So he's very he's a very text-based thinker.
That sounds kind of like Rav Kook.
He has a lot in common with Rav Kook in terms of his derech of combining things. There's a famous story that
God have mercy on us. He's not a Zionist. Thank God.
He's certainly
Jacob,
not
you're
a Zionist.
Sephardic.
I'm a what?
You're Sephardic. You're speaking Lashon Hara about your own people.
What are you talking about?
That's
Sephardim
true. I
have
agree.
never been Zionists.
No. So I'll tell you a story, Kirk, because actually the Ger Rebbe, the Sfas Emes, no, it's the son of the Sfas Emes. Was it the Malach? There was the Rebbe of Ger was very close to Rav Kook, and they were once on there's some sort of story where they were on like a boat together, or they had some sort of private meeting, and the Ger Rebbe asked Rav Kook, "How do you know so much Hasidus?" And he says, he told him, because I learned Nefesh HaChaim. In other words, I know Hasidus because I learned the opposite Jewish philosophy with enough depth to realize that it's all coming to say the same thing. And in that way, you're absolutely right.
There are definitely people who have to some extent reconciled certainly Nefesh HaChaim and the Baal Tanya, but I believe I'm quoting Rabbi Brodowitz when I say that there is a tiny bit of chutzpah to say that Reb Chaim Volozhiner and the Baal Tanya, who very obviously were disagreeing with each other, that there's not, right, like Rabbi Mallet says, the Vilna Gaon and the Baal Tanya did not think they were saying the same thing.
Well, listen,
it's not so clear that the Vilna Gaon actually read the writings of the Alter Rebbe, but it's very clear that Nefesh HaChaim was written as a response to Tanya, and Chalila v'chas for me to say I understand Tanya and Nefesh HaChaim well enough to think that I do not pull that person up until you make sure that it's an actual human being, because we have definitely had porn bombers before.
I'm not going to put wokey to pronouns.
Okay.
On this. Well, listen, I'm going to tell you something, because when Yosef Hatzadik in last week's portion, when he finally when Yosef Hatzadik meets his brothers and he reveals himself to his brothers, the first thing he asks, he says in one statement, he says, "I am your brother Joseph. Is my father alive? Is my father alive?" Meaning to say that the ikar is always going to be, how is the tzaddik doing? What does the tzaddik say? What does the Rebbe say? What I mean to say here is that the Rav Yitzchak Morgenstern is a tzaddik. There's a tzaddik Yesod HaOlam in the world today. If you want to look at the sugya through his, kavyachol, through his eyes, I highly recommend the series Entering the Sea of Wisdom, B'yam Darchecha, whatever number it is, on Joey Rosenfeld's YouTube channel, where this is dealt with at length. Nefesh HaChaim and the Baal Tanya were saying the exact same thing. Rather, the Rav Chaim Volozhiner and the Baal Tanya were saying the exact same thing. Did they think they were saying the same thing? Look, Torah comes into the world through all sorts of means. Was there a machlokas? There certainly was, but Rav Yitzchak's point is that you need both of them to have a full picture of the Arizal's concept of the Tzimtzum. As far as it being Kipshuto, I can't pretend to know if Tzimtzum, I'm not poskening here on whether or not Tzimtzum was Kipshuto or not, but what I know is that the Leshem Shuvo V'Lachalama said that Avadai, everything the Arizal is Kipshuto. Even if it's not Kipshuto, it's Kipshuto. And we have to take the Arizal at his word. As much as I'm a Lubavitcher, my secret non-Lubavitch opinion is that Tzimtzum is kind of Kipshuto, like kind of. But that's my opinion. Don't mind me. I'm a crazy person.
Just to break it down for normal people, what does Kipshuto mean?
Literal. Basically, the question is, when God made the world, did he really retract himself to create the space for
Khalila, what does that mean? It's impossible for,
Wait. Or did God, from our perspective, we really and truly feel the lack of God's presence, and we have to be reminded of it, and we have to, just like Shara Yichud Ve'emunah just said in the note, it has to be Megala in the Seichel, in Chabad of Ein Sof.
I think Rabbi Mullet is correct.
I can give you the links and you can watch it.
Okay, you can give the links, and whoever wants to go watch it can watch it.
Listen. You need to know something about the
I don't understand these things. Ainly Esek ben Istarot.
You need to know something about the Beit Midrash of the Tzaddik HaYesod HaOlam. Rav Itchamar Morgenstern Shlita. Everybody davens with a Rashash Siddur. Everybody davens with a Rashash Siddur. And the Rebbe wrote out a letter because people were confused at this, right? Why are there like bar mitzvah boys looking at a Rashash Siddur? And he said, listen, Avadai, we have no idea what any of these Lashonos mean. Avadai, we have no idea what the Rashash was coming to say about the Arizal. And we have no idea what the Arizal has to say,
You're
is coming to
absolutely
say
right,
about
Rabbi
Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. But Avodas Hashem B'chlal is Ke'ilu, and also when it comes to Kabbalah and Hasidut and using our Shash Sidur, we're always acting. We're always acting it out. So whether or not we have any shaykhs to it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'm this close to buying a Rashash Siddur just to spite you Misnagdim.
It would not spite me if you were davening out of the Rashash Siddur or any other Siddur. My Siddur has all kinds of kavanot in it, which I do not understand, and I do not claim to understand, and I never will claim to understand. Have we learned Shas and Poskim? Why are we delving into
this? Is Hisnagdis. This is Hisnagdis on level 10. This is snaggy daddy business. Okay.
Hey, have some kavod for our resident misnagid, Rabbi Mullet.
You know, Rabbi Mullet, I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to forget who said it. I want to say it was the Kamarna Rebbe or the Rebbe Rav Simcha Bonim of Pshischa. I think it was the Kamarna Rebbe. That the Kamarna Rebbe wanted like 3-year-olds learning Zohar. And somebody asked him, but Rebbe, don't you know that a person has to be tahor and kodosh? He has to be pure and holy to learn Kabbalah's Ha'ari. And he said, yeah, I know. But don't you know that for a person to become tahor and kadosh, he needs to learn the Zohar and the Ari?
Rabbi Mullet says, proud Litvak, Ben Achar Ben. Okay, to give an actual answer, not an answer like Max.
A Lumdisha answer, because, yeah.
An answer that someone who actually knows something about Torah might give.
Yeah.
The real answer to this question, because obviously, because obviously, Rabbi Mullet is asking very important and correct questions, like, have we learned Shas and Poskim? Why are we delving into this? Do we know all of Nigla?
This is this is
our Gedolim,
oh,
right?
Gedolim.
And obviously, Rabbi Mullet has a very good point. Are not endorsing this derech. Okay. The actual answer, not Max's answer, the actual answer to this very, very good shaila is what the Rebbeim of Chabad have answered at least since the time of the Tzemach Tzedek, which is, and frankly, I could give Mekorot that actually the Baal Tanya gave this answer as well. We see from the Perot that studying Hasidus and studying these things has had an effect where Hasidim are keeping Nigla and keeping Halacha and keeping Torah in ways that Lo Aleinu and Rahman al have not necessarily been true in all of the communities which did not do this. And et lasot lasham heferu toratecha. This certain great Rabbanim, including the Baal Shem Tov and the Arizal, and Reb Chaim Vital, saw that it was necessary that these jewels of the Torah be brought out at this time to awaken a certain love and fear of God which would not exist in people who did not have them. And because of that, when it doesn't lead to heresy and antinomian practice, that's fine, but this is often not the case. I would say, and this is the proof of it is that we see that studying Hasidus actually, the Poel has, I mean, there's a reason why all around the world it is known that who are the people who are most makpid in Torah are the Hasidim. I mean, you ask any Christian, hey, who are the Jews who are the most ultra-Orthodox? They will say Hasidim.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and another thing is
and that's the Poel Mamish. We see that the result of studying Hasidus has been not antinomian practice, actually lehepech, chalila lechas. We've seen where reform, Hashem Yerachem Aleinu, was able to be tofes, was not in those places where Hasidus was.
Also, as the Vilna Gaon himself points out, as we barrel towards the end of history, the study of Nistar actually is going to become more important. The Ramchal brings this, Nefesh HaChaim mentions this, I'm sure. It goes without saying that this is in Torah Habesht, in basically every single sefer in the catalog, in the library of the Talmidei Habesht. This is just what Judaism believes, and I would flip the question on its head and say, why are you as a Litvak not concerning yourself with what the Gra said to do, which was to slowly but surely, explore the secrets of the Torah? I mean, we're clearly at the end of history, so.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
From what I understand, there are many people in the more modern Orthodox camp and Yemenite Jews, who are some of the few Mizrahi Jews who are like this, who believe that the Kabbalah has actually, in many respects, distorted and become idolatrous to traditional Judaism. Like many Talmid HaRambam believe that Kabbalistic doctrines have...
No, Kirk, this is you spending way too much time online. This is not true. There are very, very few Yemenite Jews which believe anything like this. And people online who spend way too much time online point to them in order to find a thing. But no, this is not true. But if you think you understand Arizal before you know all of Nigla, you're wrong. Okay, I would agree with that. If you think you understand Likutei Maharan before you know Nigla, you're wrong. I would agree with that. Same for the Zohar, Shla Kadosh, etc. I agree. I'm working on Nigla, not putting the cart before the horse. I'll get there with Hashem's help. I agree.
Can I?
Yeah, I'm talking to Kirk now. Citation. Yeah, Kirk, what you're saying is it's online.
And also,
I'm
Kirk,
sorry. I actually didn't know that was false. I heard that from some people who call themselves rabbis online.
Yeah, that's online. This is what happens.
Kirk,
there are very few. There are lots of people like Max and very few people like Rabbi Mullet on YouTube.
Also, Kirk, what you may also be interested to hear is that in general, the past 15 or 20 years of the modern Orthodox world, because of its absolute lack of like spiritualism in basically any form, the huge kind of the trend right now in modern Orthodoxy is Hasidic philosophy. Like every single person at Yeshiva University learns Tanya, basically. I mean, it's very rare to find a modern Orthodox person who actually believes in God and is staying Orthodox in some sense. Basically impossible to find a person like that who does not have some debt to the ideas of the Baal Shem Tov and especially Chabad.
If Asher Meza is the person I think, then he is a fraud, and I trust Rabbi Mullet anyway.
I wasn't referring to Asher Maz. I was referring to a different guy named David Bar Haim.
Yeah. I mean, you know, he actually says a lot of interesting things, but on the Zohar issue, I think, yeah, he's
You mean
certainly a
David
minority.
Bahaim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a
Machon
crazy.
Shila. He's an intelligent man who
And a Zionist.
Well, depends what you mean.
Who are we talking about?
Machon Shilo, the Rav.
Oh, that idiot.
He's not an idiot.
Yeah, he is.
He's a very intelligent idiot.
The guy's been beclowning himself more and more recently.
Yeah, you're wrong. But okay, I want to say something.
He's been beclowning himself more and more.
So I want to respond very quickly to this comment, because there's a story I heard. It's a Rebbe Nachman story, and it's not a very long story, but it's a deep story. And Avadai, every word that came out of Rabbeinu HaKadosh's mouth was deep. But the story is that a man, and it's about a man, somebody very stark, somebody very serious, and his son. And his son was a bit wild, and he heard that there was a holy man in town, across town at the other end of a small town in White Russia. And he was begging his father, I want to see the holy man. I want to see the holy man. And the father said, listen, I don't really believe in that kind of stuff. We're not going. And he begged his father. He says, I really want to see this holy man. Everybody, everyone in the world, everyone in my small town, like they're just obsessed with this guy. I have to visit this tzaddik. I have to visit the saint and ask him, you know, what I'm doing with my life and da 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 da. And he said, listen, you're too young to be thinking about these sorts of things. Stay put. Just be who you are. And he begs him. He says, fine. They set out to journey to the tzaddik, to the saint. And the wagon breaks down. And the father's like, thank God, right? He goes back home. And then a month later, his son is begging him, the holy man, the holy man. He says, fine, we'll go out. We'll see the holy man. Then they get in the wagon. And this time the wagon doesn't break down, but there ends up being some political conundrum that keeps them from going to the holy man across town. Okay, he has to go back home again. Finally. Oh, Jacob left. Finally. They get in the wagon. This time the father even is set on seeing the holy man. And they stay overnight at a hotel. And there's a man in the hotel. And he asks the father, where are you going with your son? He says, my son wants to speak to the holy man who's in town. And the guy says, listen, I spoke to him. He isn't all that. Okay? Your gut, you should listen to it. He's a faker. He's a snake oil salesman. He's a magician, a sorcerer. He's nobody. Okay. So the father is pleased. And he goes back home. He says, sorry, I had a change of heart. And he brings his son back to his house. And that night, his son died. He died in his sleep. And then the man who was so totally crushed by the loss of his beloved son, he goes to venture out to see the holy man himself. And he goes to the hotel. And he sees the same man that told him to turn around in the first place. He sees him sitting there. And he says to him, I recognize you. What are you doing here? And he said, well, you told me to turn back home, and I listened to you, and my son died. And now I need to visit the tzaddik. Now I need to visit the saintly man. I need to visit the holy person who's in town, who's going to tell me something wise. And the man laughs and says, listen, he's left town. He's not here anymore. And he walks out of the hotel. And the man is puzzling. Who was this person? Who was this person? Rabbi Nachman ends the story there. The person was the Satan. And the tzaddik was the tzaddik Yesod HaOlam. And the neshama is the boy who so desperately wants to see the holy man. He doesn't even know who the holy man is. He's only heard about the holy man, but he wants to see the tzaddik. Why does he want to see the tzaddik? He doesn't know. He's too young to know, but he wants to see the tzaddik. And our intellect is the father. That's our father. Oh, don't worry about it. He's a magician. He's a snake oil salesman. I haven't learned all of Nigla yet. By the time you finally get to set out on your journey to see the holy man, that neshama inside of you will die in its sleep. It will die in its sleep. You have to see the tzaddik specifically, davka, when your brain is telling you that it makes no sense. When your mind is telling you, oh, I haven't learned Nigla.
What does this have anything to do with the fact that you like an ignoramus, have been claiming you understand things you have no understanding
You
of.
don't understand. It's not that I understand the secrets of Kabbalah,
Baruch Hashem.
but it's that I'm pretending to. And pretending is an ikr, it's a klal gadol in Hasidus that we're pretending.
Okay, I have to say, Rabbi Mullet says he has listened to this David Ben Chaim, Bar Chaim, or whatever his name is.
So
And Rabbi Mullet says he's impressed as a scholar.
Okay.
Now,
Listen.
I don't know as much Torah as Rabbi Mullet does. I will say that when I have listened to him, certain things have hit me a little weird. First of all, his use of his very peculiar way of speaking biblical Hebrew. Next, his use of Katav Ivri, which we generally have stopped doing for a very long time.
He doesn't do
Next, while Rav Avadia had the shoulders to say such things, this guy telling Ashkenazim that they can eat kidneyot on Pesach in ways that, okay, you're not Rav Avadia. Then the fact that he says to make a bracha on taking off your tefillin, keneged all of the rabbis everywhere, and that he
This is a bad argument.
Chutzpah?
Bad argument.
What do you mean? Safek brachos lahakel. It's
What
not
you
a bad argument at all. And he has the chutzpah to put out his own sidur with his own nusach.
All nusachim are legitimate.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, Jacob, you're. This is a bad argument.
All
is
nusachim
why.
are legitimate.
What?
Every nusach is legitimate in its own way.
Right. Every nusach that has a tradition, you don't just.
That's not
come
true.
up with a nusach by yourself.
What are you talking about? What do you think this is?
Chalila v'chas. What's it called? What does it say?
It's according to the Arizal, but the Arizal.
Yeah!
No, Jacob. I'm gonna show how ridiculous what you're saying is. The Arizal never used this siddur. This siddur was put together by a tzaddik, the tzaddik Yesod HaOlam, which for some reason some people, opposed even in his day, which was the Alter Rebbe Zechuso Yogan Aleinu. But what you'll notice about this book is that it has no Masorah in the way that you mean. Now, I'm not a fan of Rabbi Bar Chaim, but no, he's totally wrong. Masorah doesn't mean anything. Art Scrolls siddur has no Masorah.
Max.
It literally has no Masorah.
Max, one day you will go and spend a few days learning in a yeshiva and maybe learn a Daf Gemara, and then we can talk about this stuff. But that's now,
not an argument.
I don't really know very much.
Bad argument.
No, not at all.
It's a bad argument.
Exactly. The Alter Rebbe wrote the Shulchan Aruch Harav.
I'm a Lubavitcher, and you think I'm comparing the two? Chas v'shalom. Elif Abdallah.
Art Scroll has a strong Masorah. Exactly.
You're
wrong in so many different ways.
Art Scroll, the Nusach Ashkenaz is not real. When you buy the Art Scroll Nusach Ashkenaz, that's not what anybody in Ashkenaz used. That's not Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz is Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam.
Okay.
And we don't use their siddur.
Max, you're just bad.
What am I saying that's not true? Spot the lie instead of name calling.
I didn't name call you anything. What name did I call you?
You're just bad.
Yeah, you're just wrong.
Okay. That's not an argument.
Read Aruch HaShulchan. Art Scroll follows it.
Sure, but what are my sources? My sources are this right here. This is a pretty interesting book I read.
What is
you can buy it on
book?
Amazon. It's called Siddur Sfas Yisrael.
Okay.
and it was put up by
By who?
a very interesting rabbi.
Who?
I'll find you his full name. I believe it's Rav Hamburger. It's not here. Maybe it's in the back of the book where he has this long essay.
It's apparently a Yekish.
Yes, it's a Yekish Siddur. And it's an interesting book to read.
It
Not
was
just
first published in 1799.
you're missing the point. This specific, like this was published then, sure. But when you read about the history of Nusach Ashkenaz, you realize that the actual Nusach Ashkenaz that was used in Ashkenaz does not exist anymore, except for a couple crazy Yekish shuls. When you read the art scroll Nusach Ashkenaz, that has all kinds of stuff that was not done by the Vilna Gaon. It wasn't done by the students of the Vilna Gaon. It wasn't done by anybody in Lithuania.
Okay, this is completely different from what Bar Chaim is doing with his.
Of course. Oh my God. Okay, that was the first thing I said, that you cannot possibly compare. Obviously, what my point is that people who think that there's this thing called capital M Masorah and you either have it or don't, that's just not the case. That's just simply not true.
What are you talking about?
It's just not true. There's no such thing as the Masorah that Art Scroll has. That look, everything that I'm saying, okay, everything you're saying about what I'm saying, people said about the Alter Rebbe. You have no Masorah. That doesn't mean anything. It's not an argument.
No.
The Siddur Hagra is not
wrong.
Art Scroll.
Max, you are just plain wrong.
About what?
There is such a thing as not having a Masorah.
Yes, but David Bar Chaim is not somebody who is so totally outside of the Masorah. It's just not true. That's some exactly.
Yeah, it is. No, it is, because there is a Masorah. There is learning the way the Jewish community does. That's why, like, coming up with your own brachas and keneged all of the. Like,
no, you're already wrong.
No, there is such thing as being part of the Jewish community and being outside the Jewish community.
This is not an argument, because
yes, it is an argument.
No, it isn't.
No. This is the argument, Max. That it's a Jewish community, and if you leave it, you have left the Jewish community.
But here's the problem with what you're saying, is that he's not, and I'm not even a fan of him, really. I think he says some interesting things, but you should know that I'm just being fair here. He is not making up brachot out of thin air. He is doing, or so he thinks. He could be wrong, but you have to take him seriously for a second. He is doing what all Talmidei Chachamim and all poskim. I'm being interrupted. Like we're in middle school.
Yeah, because you're
talking
silliness.
But you are making things up.
No,
you are making things up by saying
no, Max,
you're lying.
You are saying
you're speaking ill of someone. You are lying. If he says Jacob. If he says we should say a bracha like the Yerushalmi says to say.
Right.
That's not out of thin
air. That's the Yerushalmi's precedent.
That's the Talmud.
I didn't say it's out of thin air. I said he is not taking into consideration what other rabbis say.
But that's not how.
Yes, that is how.
No,
yes, that is 100%.
But that doesn't
how
mean
the Masorah works.
But okay. There's always going to be a person who changes the halacha or poskim a different. Wait, I'm being interrupted.
Max, you're not listening.
You're not listening to me.
Max,
I'm being
it's
interrupted.
my channel.
But you're interrupting me.
It's
so that
my
means
channel. It's my
by definition, I can't be being heard if I'm not being.
Max, what did I say?
What?
What did I say?
What? That it's your channel?
No, before that. Yes, it is my channel. I could just kick you off.
That David Bar Chaim does not take into account what the rest of the Jewish world says about XYZ halachic matter.
Okay.
That is true.
Okay.
But
that makes him a poretz geder. That makes him outside the machane, and that makes him not an Orthodox Jew.
Right.
A
but-
lot of Jews hated Maimonides when he was
Yeah,
alive.
That's
it's
beside
a
the
to-
point.
but
You're not
no,
addressing
listen,
my point.
I will, if you let me finish, I will address your point. Will you
Go
let me
ahead.
finish? Okay.
I'll let you finish as long as you don't say stupid things and you address.
Okay,
the point.
so
Address the point.
Sure. Let me address your point. You said that because this rabbi is disagreeing with the rest of the Jewish world on, for example, saying a bracha when you take off your tefillin as the sun is setting. You said because he is not taking into account the fact, let's use that as an example, that no other halachic source currently in use paskins that way, that he is no longer a part of the Jewish community.
Correct.
That is completely untrue.
No.
That is completely untrue.
No.
And wait.
No.
And wait. And an obvious example of how untrue that would be is that people said the exact same thing about the Rambam, Lahavdil, and about
Show me. Where did anyone say of the Rambam that he doesn't take into consideration what the other rabbis say?
what do you want? A source of somebody saying that about him?
Yeah.
Like right now, you want me to Google and find a written source?
You told me that it's an obvious example. I've never heard such a thing.
They burned his books.
That's
They
not
put him
the
in
same
Tehran.
as not taking into consideration what the rest of the rabbis of the generation say. And exactly, this is you are ignorant and you're saying things which are just not true.
But the thing is, you are asserting that they're not true.
Yes,
you can't
but that's
demonstrate
because
that they're
I
not
actually
true.
know, whereas you are making shit up.
No, I'm not.
Then show me.
There were people who put Rambam in Cherem.
What? Okay, so you also don't have any concept of logic, where you think
Okay.
that putting people in Cherem is the same thing as a particular accusation, which is he's poretz geder and porish min hatzibur. He goes.
Was the Baal Shem Tov not put in Cherem? The Baal Tanya was
What
put in
does that
Cherem?
have to do with it? Did I say Bar Chaim was put in Cherem? Is that what I said?
No, that means he's less controversial.
No, that you are not listening to the point. The point is, he is saying you say a bracha without taking into consideration the other opinions because he thinks he can paskin out of the Talmud. And anyone who does that is a poretz geder. He's not an Orthodox Jew. He's leaving the Masorah, and he's completely outside of the camp.
But the Vilna Gaon did
Jacob.
that.
No,
The Vilna Gaon did. Yes, he did.
it's not true.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely
try and
not
steal
true. The
Man
Vilna
Max's point
Gaon
here?
knew the entirety of, and he explained all of the other things. He took them into consideration, and he had his mehalach, just like the Brisker did, just like the Rebbe did, just like everybody else did.
Right.
But they actually knew, and they acknowledged, and they.
See, Jacob.
Yeah.
You're slipping. Because a second ago, the issue was that he's not taking into account the views of the Shulchan Aruch or basically any Achronim.
Yeah.
On the other hand, now that I mentioned the Gra, who Bar Chaim has some makasher to in some.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is complete YouTube culture.
So the more crazy that doesn't not a good. My Gedolim are bigger than yours doesn't mean anything, especially when you don't learn.
You have no clue how the Jewish community functions.
If you aren't learning Hasidus, you are. There's a question, but as far as Bar Chaim and his derech, where he feels, and again, if you want to riff on how stupid he is, that's easy to do because I don't think he's a genius or he's not my Rebbe. I think he's probably a kofar. But as far as this specific issue, his halachic methodology or what he feels is the most faithful to the more rationalistic,
his heresy.
what you call his heresy,
Yeah.
that is not out of nowhere.
It is completely out of reform.
It just is not.
It is
And
completely out of reform.
It's not.
It is not out of nowhere at all.
Wait.
It is an established heresy that people have done for thousands of years.
Let me give you an example. Okay.
You have no clue what you're talking
I'll give you an example, and you can tell me.
You have zero clue what you're talking about.
I'll give you an example. I believe it's
Rabbi Mullet is losing his mind. Please, Rabbi Mullet, I'm sorry that while someone who actually knows Torah like you can't join,
nobody
I have a complete idiot.
No.
Stupidity.
Listen, nobody on the planet with a brain thinks that Bar Chaim is a gadol.
Thank you.
When I said my gedolim are bigger than yours, I'm referring to the general, totally intellectually bankrupt concept as it currently exists of gedolim, which basically says person X has a gadol.
I like
and
Max too. Why do you think I let him on my channel?
And they pick and choose when to listen to their gedolim. And person Y has their gedolim, and they pick and choose when they listen to gedolim. We don't always like what gedolim say. There's very few Litvish yeshivas that do like Rav Shach Chuso Yogan Aleinu says to learn a blat a day. I'm sorry, they're not all doing that. 2 blat a day. I mean, they're just
zero
not.
idea what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say is that the reliance on authority is basically, in the way that it's currently done, from my perspective, and I'm not the first to say this, is completely and totally shtus. It has no Masorah. There was never a point in Jewish history when a person said, my gadol's bigger than yours, and they picked and choose when they listen to their gadol. It's not talking about. It's not a valid. It's not a real concept. So
yeah, you're making straw men of things that don't exist.
But Rabbi Mullet is. I don't have to make a straw man because we have somebody in the chat who believes that
this is studying Torah.
This is studying Torah.
Yeah,
we have somebody in the chat
learning that. Yeah,
we have somebody in the chat who believes, and it's a valid.
You are straw manning a much bigger.
It's not reliance. I didn't say it's just reliance.
You are completely
You're not even listening to what I'm saying. It's not a straw man.
I'm listening to what you're saying. You're not listening to what I'm saying.
Because you are name calling and not dealing with what I'm bringing to the table.
You aren't even listening to what I'm saying.
There is no Masorah. There is no precedence for this idea that, for example, I don't wear tchelis because the gedolim say not to. That is not how anything has ever worked in Jewish history.
What?
Ever.
What are you talking about?
I'm using tchelis as an example.
Yeah, you keep on going to tchelis, and you're saying, so the fact is, if somebody doesn't want to wear tchelis because they don't have any example of someone else wearing tchelis, that's a perfectly okay thing for them to decide to do.
I'm not saying that they personally can't do it, but I'm saying tchelis is the ultimate example, one of the ultimate examples of the limits of gedolim theology.
What gedolim theology? You're making up something
gedolim
that
theology
exist.
Is when a halachic issue is so obviously, it's so clear to anybody that looks into the sugya, but people feel paralyzed to do anything about it because the gedolim, who almost never are named, they're just like a shadowy group of people that nobody voted on. The gedolim say not to. That's not how halacha works.
Max, you obviously have never lived within the Jewish community.
Yeah, that's not it. That's insulting and untrue.
No, you don't understand how the Jewish community functions.
Is Max in Israel?
No.
No, he lives in Los Angeles with me. Yeah, we don't vote for gedolim. This isn't how anything works. You don't understand what you're talking about. There is a process of deciding halacha. You can't just sit behind a webcam, open a book, read it, and say now that's what we do. Even though all the great scholars of the generation, this is the thing. And
that doesn't mean
frankly, Father Stephen DeYoung is the one who is pointing out how this Lithuanian, sorry, I called it Lithuanian, I meant Lutheran, how Max really is a Lutheran. And I keep on saying that, and Max doesn't even listen to the idea. What do I mean when I say you're a Lutheran? What do I mean? What do I mean, Max?
Everybody breathe
What do
through
I
your
mean
nose.
when I say you're a Lutheran?
When you insult me, and I don't mind,
Yeah.
by calling me a Lutheran, what you are trying and failing to say is that I have an unrealistic and unrefined idealization for a more ancient Jewish practice and spiritual
That's not
attitude.
what I was saying at all.
Wait,
Wait.
Let me finish.
What does that have to do with Martin Luther?
Wait. Because Protestantism as a movement in general also invents a historic early church that the sources do not communicate. For example, the issue of music and iconography in churches. It's a fact that the early church played instruments, sang, and had iconography in their churches. But Protestants are so obsessed with this idea of being like the first Christians that they bypass the facts and invent an early Christianity where they wear all black and don't sing. You are trying to compare me to them. Wrongly.
You are creating a particular view of Martin Luther, applying it to all of Protestantism. There's a reason I mentioned Martin Luther. So Martin Luther was somebody who was not a bishop, who was a priest, and he decided that he was going to start his own church. Well, we could pull up Mamre, but and probably should, and I will as soon as I finish this. You, from outside the Jewish community, have decided that you understand how the Jewish community functions, which you don't.
I don't. I'm not saying that.
Wait, Jacob, is Max even Jewish?
Yes, I'm Jewish. What Jacob is saying is just not true at all. What I am doing is simply, to the best of my ability, being fair with what this person, Bar Chaim, says about how Jewish law operates. And he has sources that he brings.
His sources are irrelevant.
Well,
oh my God, Jacob, why can't you stop interrupting people?
Because it's my channel.
Because
you're lucky I don't
but we're having a discussion.
You're lucky I don't just throw you off.
But we're having a conversation.
Yeah, but you're saying things which are silly. Why should I give you a platform to say things which are just plain wrong and silly on my channel?
Max, doesn't the Torah say not to follow the majority in evil?
But chas v'shalom that the mainstream halachic reality, that currently stands is evil. It's very good and it should be listened to completely.
Don't follow the majority in evil. You don't have to listen to what Gedolim say.
Well, well, that might not be true, but that's not what I'm saying or what Rav Bar Chaim is saying. He's not saying don't listen.
Well, listen,
he's
but don't follow them
listening
blindly is what I'm
himself.
saying.
Why? Because he wears tcheles?
What does that have to do with it? Did I bring up tcheles?
It's an example of how he does.
But did I bring up tcheles?
No, you didn't. But
what did I bring up?
Kitnios, I think was your. Oh, the bracha of putting away tefillin.
And why is that important?
Because we don't poskin that way, and it's an example of his.
Because of Suffolk brachot lahakel, which I'm not even sure you've ever heard of.
You mean you could be saying something in vain, and it's a suffix? What do you mean?
So we have a general rule of Suffolk brachot lahakel. When it comes to a bracha, when there's a disagreement between various rabbis, then we don't. Then we don't. Then we don't say the bracha, even if we ourselves believe that we should. Right? Because we're taking into consideration what the opinions of other rabbis, right? And it's one of the ways in which the Jewish community keeps Whose dog is that? Is that a dog? Trey, is that a dog? I thought I saw a dog. Oh, what was I seeing?
That's my profile pic.
That's your profile pic. I see.
Oh,
where are you guys? Did you go camping this weekend? You guys went camping, didn't you? Let me pull up Mamrem.
Jacob, there's a problem with what you said.
Okay, what's the problem with what I said?
I will give you an example to demonstrate the problem with what you said. My example is that Ashkenazim, not sans Hasidim, say 2 brachot when they put on tefillin.
Mm-hmm.
They say one for the shel yad and one for the shel rosh.
Okay.
Now, according to how you are articulating the normative halachic framework,
mm-hmm.
they, by following the minority opinion amongst the klal, are rebels.
So if you actually look up that particular halacha,
Mm-hmm.
you will see that this is a discussion that many rabbis bring up about Safek Brachot La'akel.
Mm-hmm.
And when a community has a tradition of saying a bracha from time immemorial, they may continue to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Ashkenazim still do so.
But here's the thing. That is not from time immemorial.
Yeah, it is.
There's plenty of Ashkenazi poskim that hold that you should say one bracha.
And someone who doesn't have a communal minhag, a communal tradition of saying the bracha, cannot start saying the bracha.
Sure, but
what do you mean? Sure, no, that is
that's true.
Consideration,
but the thing is, at some point, somebody made a decision.
No, Max, you're making shit up again.
Somebody somebody made the decision of changing that. That person was the Alter Rebbe. Before the Alter Rebbe, the Ashkenazic world said 2 brachas. After Hasidus, the majority. Wait, I can't finish a sentence. We're in middle school and I can't finish a sentence.
Okay, so saying one bracha does not go against Safek Brachot La'akel.
You're missing the point, Jacob.
You are missing the point.
No, they were doing it one way, and they changed it, and that was okay.
You are not actually paying attention to the point I made.
I'm using this as an example.
And you are not understanding the point that I made. What was the point that I made?
Your point is about specifically that issue of adding versus subtracting a bracha being
exactly.
But you're missing the point I even brought it up to make, which is that either way, and this is
I brought it up. You didn't break it up.
Yes, that I brought up. The point I'm trying to make being that Jewish communities change.
Yes, who said they don't?
They don't just change because out of nowhere a Masorah shows up. The Masorah has to develop. And if there showed up a community in 300 years from now of people, of Ashkenazim, for example, in Eretz Yisrael, who ate kitniot, then all of that naysaying that might have made sense now in 300 years would actually be kfira. How could you say they have a Masorah?
Max, you simply don't understand what you're talking about. And this is a complete waste of time because you just don't understand.
You have the opportunity.
Yeah,
it's not an argument.
He has no clue. And he refuses to even pay attention.
Masorah is this magical thing where nobody can explain how it works.
Well, no, actually, people can explain how it works. You just refuse to actually pay attention.
Okay, so please explain to me why.
Okay, I'm going to read this from Rabbi Mullet because reading the Rambam is actually useful as opposed to wasting our time. Okay. So the Supreme Sanhedrin in Jerusalem are the essence of the oral Torah. They are the pillars of instruction from whom statutes and judgments issue forth. This is Hilchot Mamrim, rebels, chapter 1, Halacha 1, in the Mishnah Torah. Issue forth for the entire people, Jewish people. Concerning them, the Torah promises, Deuteronomy 17:11, you shall do according to the laws which they shall instruct you. This is a positive commandment. Whoever believes in Moses and in his Torah is obligated to make all of his religious acts depend on this court and to rely on them.
Yes, a Sanhedrin.
Any person who does not carry out the directives, transgresses a negative commandment, as Ibid continues, do not deviate from any of the statements they relate to you, neither right nor left. Lashes are not given for the violation of this prohibition, because it also serves as a warning for transgression punishable by execution by the court. For when a sage rebels against the words of the court, he should be executed by strangulation, as the following verse states, a person who will act deliberately. We are obligated to heed their words, whether they A, learned them from the oral tradition, i.e. the oral law, B, derived them on the basis of their own knowledge through one of the attributes of biblical exegesis, and it appeared to them that this is the correct interpretation of the matter, C, instituted the matter as a safeguard for the Torah as was necessary at a specific time. These are the decrees, edicts, and customs instituted by the sages. It is a positive commandment to heed the court with regards to each of these three matters. A person who transgresses any of these types of directives transgresses a negative commandment. This is derived from the continuation of the above verse in the following manner. According to the laws which they shall instruct you, this refers to the edicts, decrees, and customs which they instruct people at large to observe, to strengthen the faith, and perfect the world. According to the judgment which they relate, this refers to the matters which they derive through logical analysis, employing one of the methods of biblical exegesis. From all the things that they will tell you, this refers to the traditions which they received one person from another.
Yes.
Now,
all true.
To
Every
explain the Musar,
tradition.
Yeah.
Musar is tradition, yes.
Yep.
Musar is a community thing.
That's not right off the bat. We're adding words to the Rambam. That he just
hold on.
He
didn't, I that was not the Rambam on Musar. That was the Rambam on listening to rabbis. I am explaining Musar. I don't have a source in Rambam for Musar, although actually the Hakdama is probably where it is. If you want, we can learn the Hakdama of the Rambam to Mishnah Torah.
Well, you should finish the thought, but you should know that right off the bat, the first thing he says there is that the Sanhedrin.
Right. So Rabbi
is
Mullet was talking. Rabbi Mullet was talking about having a court, and this is so frustrating. You keep on jumping from one thing to the other without actually knowing what you're talking about.
Okay. That's.
You asked me to explain Masorah to you. I am explaining Masorah to you.
Max, it's not
Right.
a tradition if you make it up. That's like the opposite of tradition. That's an innovation.
Oh, damn! You got me.
He did.
My pleasure. Yeah.
But there was
See, all of these former Protestants who have become Eastern Orthodox and Catholic, they're the people who are trying to teach you, Max, Lutheranism is dead.
You're really missing the point here, but every single thing the Rambam
Hello,
says,
Justin.
Hello,
Please explain
gentlemen.
to this man why he shouldn't be a Lutheran.
Oh my God,
well,
you're
Jacob.
such a clown.
Are you Matt? Is it Matt? Who's the Lutheran?
Nobody in this chat is a Lutheran.
According to Jacob, Max the Lutheran.
Max, do you believe in sola scriptura?
No,
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Do you believe in sola fide?
no.
Max is a Hasidic Jew.
Max is a Hasidic Jew.
He's a Lutheran.
He needs to become a Christian.
Chas v'shalom.
Well, he apparently is on his way because
No,
he
chas
doesn't
v'shalom.
believe in the rabbis and the community of Israel.
That's-
Oh, you're
was
one of
no
those sola
biblical or
scriptura
Talmudic
ones.
No,
basis to
no.
say
Yes,
why-
he's
Sola-
one of
sola-
those sola scriptura Hasidic Jews.
Actually, I kind of.
He's like, as long as you have something from this, as long as you have a
Also a
good thing
Zionist,
out of the
right?
book, even if all the rabbis and all the communities disagree with you, it's great because you have the book. He's
Okay.
a sola scriptura Hasid.
Okay, now to go back.
Hashem Yerachem Aleinu.
Now to go back to the issue, because I'm going to read from what Rabbi Mullet linked, which is
Yeah.
Sefer HaMitzvot.
495.
Negative commandment 312.
Should I pull it up? I can pull it up.
Yeah, pull both of these up.
Okay. Sefer HaMitzvot. It's on Sefaria, isn't it? Where is
Yeah.
Sefer HaMitzvot? It's in
I'll-
Halacha or in.
Hey,
Sefer
does
HaMitzvot?
anybody here live in? Does anybody here live in Israel? Max, do you live in Israel?
I don't.
Okay.
wish.
Do you guys know about a just out of curiosity, a well-known cave dedicated to Tammuz, the god Tammuz?
No.
That's like the
Ancient-
opposite side.
That's a
Tammuz
pagan
is
deity?
one of the months.
Yeah, the
of-
pagan deity.
It's one of the months. The Bible uses Tammuz as
That's
one
the name
the-
of the one of months. Yeah.
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 Sefer Mitzvot, negative commandments, 312. One. Hold on. Are we doing Oh, okay. Hold on. Are we doing the chinuch or are we doing?
You
Sefer
bring them
Mitzvot?
both. I have.
Okay. Don't put it in the general chat. Put it into the chat. But here, I'll get it.
Hey, Max, you a Zionist?
No.
Baruch Hashem.
I'm the only Zionist here.
I'm what comes after.
The Lutheran non-Zionist? Who is this man?
Hey man, he's a Lutheran non-Zionist. Yeah. Okay. Chill out. All right.
So he prohibited us from dissenting against those who are the masters of the tradition and against their derivations from the commandments through the methods of Torah. And that is his saying, you shall not turn aside from the things that they tell you right or left, Deuteronomy 17:11. And the language of the Sifri Devarim 154, paragraph 4, is you shall not turn aside. This is a negative commandment. And one who transgresses this negative commandment is a rebellious elder and is liable for strangulation. And this is according to the received conditions explained at the end of Sanhedrin.
As in he can be killed by means of strangulation.
Yes, so that's
Mandatory.
a rebellious elder has to be someone who qualifies as an elder and rebels against the rabbis.
But
It's actually a very particular situation, but yes, it is. It
so,
is.
Jacob, can I ask you this?
Sure.
So you brought up David Bar Chaim permitting Ashkenazim to eat kitniot and Pesach. My question to you would be, what Talmudic or biblical basis would Ashkenazim have to not eat kitniot and Pesach?
Minhag avotenu b'yadenu.
So did the Rush not believe in that? I mean, what do you mean, minhag avotenu?
What do you mean?
The Rush Paskins, that they can. Did the Rush not know about minhag avotenu?
What are you
Of course
talking about? There have been plenty of people who have paskined that Ashkenazim can eat kidney.
Thank you. And those people are not to be put to death by a Sanhedrin.
Nobody said they were.
The way you are reading this Rambam, basically, I'll say this, implies or leads one to believe incorrectly that any dissenting voice in the rabbinic...
I would never say such a thing.
Man, he's really ignoring the tradition. Only look at the text right now. Kind of wild.
Listen.
Okay, Andrew and Trey, where are you?
Chick-fil-A.
Oh my God, Chick-fil-A.
Well, yeah, obviously you're a Chick-fil-A, but there's Chick-fil-A's all over the place. Which Chick-fil-A?
In Irvine.
Irvine.
Okay. you guys were gonna go camping this weekend, weren't you?
We already did that.
Yeah.
Okay, was it fun?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There are four out of 6 of us in Los Angeles, and we're on the computer for no good reason.
Well, whose audio is freaking out?
Max, is that your audio that's freaking out?
God forbid. No, Jacob. You're arguing against something that I don't believe, and
Which
in doing
is?
so, what you're arguing against is that a person can crack open the Bible or crack open the Talmud or even the Rambam and just decide, for example, I'm going to go to a gay pride parade and stab somebody because the Rambam says that you're allowed to kill people who are sexual degenerates and promoting degeneracy in public. That would not be true.
I would definitely be against that.
Right. That
Andrew, I think that's your phone. I mean, that's Trey's phone or whoever's phone it is. It's really bad.
That, for lack of a better term, sola scriptura Judaism is not what I believe in at all.
Good.
And it's not even what David Bar Chaim believes in.
No, he believes he can go to the Jerusalem Talmud and against all of Judaism, come up with his own brachas.
No.
What do you mean no? He's done that.
No. His argument for saying the bracha on taking your tefillin off, which I don't even know. I'm sure he has shiurim about that specific sugya. He's not saying, well, I opened the Talmud and this is what I think.
Yeah, that's actually what he said. I listened to his shiur.
Really?
Yeah.
Would you like to present some evidence for what you just said?
Okay, do I have to play? Machon Shiloh has a whole channel on YouTube, which is much bigger than mine. You can go and listen to his shiur. I listened to his shiur. His whole thing is, yeah, I opened the Jerusalem Talmud. I believe that because this is what was done in Israel 2,000 years ago, we can do that again now.
I don't think
that is precisely what his reasoning.
Aren't there ultra Orthodox Jews who do actually stone people in Israel?
No.
They throw stones, but they don't.
On Shabbat.
Yeah, throwing stones is not the same thing as putting people to death by stoning.
Okay, well, I mean, you can kill someone
and the throwing stones already, like, it's not a good thing, but like I am not in any way defending throwing stones, but even those people don't believe that they're actually like putting anyone to death.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's your day, Justin?
I'm doing well. It is officially Christmas Eve.
You mean the pagan holiday?
Oh God.
Really, fraud? Did he say that? I don't remember him saying that, but I believe fraud. Like David Bar Chaim has been beclowning himself more and more as time goes on, and him having the disgusting things that Jonathan Pollard has been saying on his channel over the past
unrelated
few months.
Straw man, unrelated.
It's not
straw man.
Hold
on. Straw man, co-conceive, dilate. Nobody asked. Plus your wife.
Jonathan Pollard isn't so bad.
Max is just going full Borchan right now because he can't take the argument.
Exactly.
I can't even get a sentence out. So I mean, what's the argument?
You're not masculine enough. Okay, take charge, bro. Come on,
Jacob. I want to say one last thought on this. You should know that Lamaisa. God forbid, like Bekitzer, I should say Bekitzer.
Bekitzer.
I have never and will never say a bracha when I take off my tefillin at sunset. Lamaisa.
Where'd you get at sunset from?
Because that's when. See, you haven't listened to the David Bar Chaim.
I definitely
because
did.
The first thing he says is that this should happen at sunset. Yes. You go on his web, you can just Google that. Look, my point is, I think yesh lecha al mi. Listen. I don't want to defend this person anymore. He's not my rabbi. I don't agree with him. But his detractors detract with almost no idea what he believes and why. And it annoys me.
I specifically went and listened to his
Well,
videos.
clearly not,
I
because you
read
didn't
his
know that the
thing.
bracha is to be said at sunset.
I'm pretty sure he does not wear a tefillin all day, and I'm pretty sure he says when you take off your tefillin, you should say the bra. You should say his bra.
I
will
honestly-
check.
I
If you're
honestly-
wrong, you owe me $500.
No, but I am right. But I am right.
Well, how confident are you that you're right?
Like I'm like
Not
$45. I'm like $45 confident.
Okay, so if you're
Okay,
wrong,
then
you'll give me
$45.
$45. Fine.
Then I owe you $45. Fine.
Max is sort of like the soy reformed, and Jacob is the Chad Orthodox.
The face.
Like Max is making all these like, what does the text say argument, right? And Jacob's like, this is the tradition and everything like that. Bro, just go to the Reformed synagogue.
Andrew,
The only
feel like you're unnerving.
Just go to a Lutheran church.
But-
just skip the Reformed synagogue. Just go to a Lutheran church.
He was such a
Oh,
clown.
does he
Jacob-
go to a Reform synagogue?
You- you're being like-
Dude, you
my
see-
You're
God.
unnerving.
No, he goes to my synagogue.
I go to
Oh.
an ultra orthodox
The Reformed
Hasidic.
Oh, so you're the one I should find out why it is that you put baby Gentile bones in your matzah bread. Okay, cool.
It's Gentile blood, I'll have you know. The bones wouldn't bake into the bread.
Is it a Chabad house?
Yeah.
He comes to USC Chabad with me.
And I'm a
When I go.
chassid. Like I'm a Lubavitcher chassid. Like I'm trying my best,
Mostly.
but I'm also not a kaifer who lies about gedolim like Bar Chaim.
A Hasid defending a Talmud Harambam?
I've got no idea. Like half the vocabulary you guys are using is just going.
Wait,
Like
Kirk. I think you have if I
Well,
could.
it actually half the vocabulary Max uses goes past himself. He doesn't actually know the words he
It doesn't
uses,
mean anything.
but he
That
likes
doesn't mean anything.
using. He likes using a lot of words.
Jacob,
Jacob,
you're just making. If I could agree with Jacob for 1 second, Kirk, your understanding of the Rambam and the Talmidei Rambam is informed by a kaifer named Bar Chaim on YouTube. He's a YouTuber and a blogger, and he's actually a food blogger. I'll call him that. He has a couple videos.
Chaim is a food blogger.
Well, there's videos of him making matzah. So if I really wanted to insult him, I would say, Jewish food blogger Bar Chaim.
So there's this.
But your
YouTube
idea about the
channel.
Rambam
Let
is
me
wrong.
explain to Justin. There's this.
What is a
YouTube channel.
Rambam?
Rambam is my
No.
mom.
Maimonides, man.
Oh, dude, just say Maimonides. What the heck? Okay, cool.
No, Rambam, man.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
What is
I
it?
can't click on this thing.
Asher,
How do I click on this?
you have to go
What
to
is his
the
actual
YouTube
name? Is
channel and
Maimonides
click on it.
like a Greek name or something? What is?
Maimonides is
Yeah.
it is Greek. Greek or
Oh, okay.
it's the way the Christians refer to the Rambam.
Okay.
We only say Maimonides so the Christians can understand us. So there is what Fraud said. Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon. So we use a lot of acronyms in Judaism, and Rambam is an acronym for Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon.
Yeah,
Oh,
we don't call Jacob Ben Asher, we call him the Torah.
I thought you can't serve.
I mean, there are people who call him. Yeah, we call a lot of people the name of the books they wrote, and he wrote the Arbaturim. Anyway, explaining who Bar Chaim is.
Yeah, just a bunch of rabbi stuff, just a bunch of nonsense. But
Machon Shlomo, Machon
Shiloh.
Shiloh.
Lahavdil Elfin Abdullah.
Machon Shiloh is a YouTube channel that's funded by Christian Zionist extremists.
I knew it.
Of course.
And-
He's so retarded, man. What the fuck?
It's true.
No,
being a Christian
Where do
is
you
not
think
something
he
you're
gets
ashamed
his
of.
money?
dude. No evangelical is giving money to this crackhead on YouTube
You're
who
gonna lose
uploads.
the debate, Max.
Where do you think he
You're
gets
going
his
to lose.
money?
He
Orthodox
do-
Jews?
He
No.
doesn't have money. He's just a guy on YouTube.
He's not just a guy on YouTube.
Okay.
You're not gonna win, Max. Back
Just
down.
Sorry, but so what has happened?
Is this like a
is-
Claire Caw conspiracy theory? Like Claire Kaw is not a person; she's a government agency. You know, like,
Kosher tinfoil kippah. Yeah. No, I mean so Machon Shiloh, the best I can tell, all of his money comes from YouTube and a bunch of hyper Zionist Christians.
can I ask you a question?
How do you get what's
I just noticed
specifically
something.
Zionist or hyper-Zionist?
Do you have to wear the hat even in your own home?
You are supposed to cover your head at all times, even
So
even in bed.
You cover your head at sleep.
I don't actually cover my head. I'm wearing a hat because I'm bald, and putting on a hat between my thing helps. But
I think you're pretty handsome.
Orthodox Jews wear some. The reason for the yarmulke is because because it's just a simple way to cover your head without actually
I just
feeling
noticed.
it.
Yeah, I've got a picture of I've got a picture of you in all of your bald glory. As a thumbnail. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I do my bald. I'm
Justin.
not a very good Jew. If you haven't figured that out, like
I think you're pretty handsome even without the hat.
What, Trey? What's your question, dude?
Do you have to wear your undergarments when you're exercising?
No, I don't exercise, so I don't wear undergarments when I exercise.
Aren't you supposed to wear the secret undergarments when you're exercising?
I'm not a
That's
Mormon.
a Mormon thing.
Oh,
I'm an Orthodox Christian.
Not a Mormon.
Right.
But you added to the Old Testament.
No. What we are is called the continuation of true Judaism.
Right.
Justin,
You know who else says that?
Don't trigger Jacob.
The
Mormons.
But so do Muslims. So do Muslims.
Muslims
actually,
still
I
with
was hoping
Muslims
Fawad
take the
would come
prophets.
on. Fawad
This is what
was here
this is what they
earlier.
do. Right. So this is what they do. This is what the Muslims do. They take the prophets and they chuck them over behind their back. Right. Just completely, and then
Muslims believe Jewish and Christian
accuse
scriptures
Jews.
corrupt.
And then accuse the Jews.
Here back like 2 hours ago, but he didn't join.
Is that Fawad?
Yeah, that's Fawad.
How do you know Fawad?
You don't know Fawad?
I know Fawad. He doesn't like.
How do
me.
you know Fawad?
All my homies know. Fawad.
Dawa over Dunya.
Yeah,
but yeah. So he can see this. Yeah. So Muslims take the prophets. They chuck them behind their back.
Yeah.
And then they accuse the Jews and the Christians of chucking our prophets.
Justin, have you ever watched David Wood?
Yeah, I know David Wood.
Yeah, he's done a lot of good stuff on debunking the Muslims.
Yeah, it's you know.
Okay.
They're the ugly third.
All times.
Rabbi Mullins is correct.
What do you do when you change
technically?
Like, do you
technically,
how do
you
you
don't
do you
have
feel
to
like
actually.
Indiana Jones, where you're like.
So like when you're changing hats, do you like slip one on?
All right, you're getting muted. Can I mute them? Can I use my
Sure,
powers?
why
Oh,
so
where'd they go? Oh,
They're gone. They're more than muted.
I didn't mean to kick them. I didn't click that. I literally didn't even. Oh, they're back. You're getting muted, Ho. Boom.
Yeah, but they can unmute themselves. So
yeah.
Technically, the only requirement is to cover your head when you walk more than 4 cubits. But most Orthodox Jews will cover their head anytime they say one of the holy names, and generally will cover their head most of the time. And many Orthodox Jews cover their head when they sleep.
Islam is a Nestorian cult that was started by a Jew from Yemen.
Islam is very Gnostic.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Jacob,
super Gnostic. Yeah.
Can I ask a practical
is a
halakha
cult
for
that
Noahides?
came from the wife of what is her name?
Epicurus.
Dang it, I forgot.
Aisha?
Yeah, Aisha. Whatever.
was 9.
Aisha was 9 when
Muhammad was a rapist.
Yep. But no, what they're gonna do is they're gonna try to point to Rachel being 3 years old, which is why it was
just not
perfectly
true.
Okay. I know it's not true. But the rabbis apparently say that Rachel was 3 years old, but really
when they got married, not when they actually consummated the
Jacob,
marriage.
is wasting sin a seed for Gentiles?
According to Rabbi Peretz, no.
Good.
Yeah.
We're having a fun time.
Yeah, all you have to do is say, like, you just go right for the jugular and say, are you comfortable with a 54-year-old mounting a 9-year-old? And that basically just ends the conversation. You would
I
think
think
that
that's-
No,
No,
dude.
it
Some of them
doesn't.
say yes.
No, it
Some of them
doesn't.
just say yes. Some of them say yes.
well, in that
They're
case,
they're like, you know, like I saw Ali Dawa. He's like, we do not say that the Muhammad, peace be upon him, married a child. We say she reached the age of adulthood. And it's like, no, dude, like if she
She's
is
playing
still
with
getting
dolls.
taller, yeah, if she's still getting taller and her breasts are still developing and she hasn't had her first period, she's a child. You know?
well, the Muslim
It's like they don't
tradition
even read
says
their own Old
she,
Testament.
she
Come on.
was she was playing with dolls.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a child. But
I don't know, man.
Wait,
She must have
hold
been one hot kid.
Hold up.
Dude,
Whoa,
I play
okay.
Warhammer. I play Warhammer. That's my counter argument.
Yeah.
I play Warhammer. Okay,
I
yeah,
have
anyways.
no idea. Yeah, Chezi, you're absolutely right. I have no
Ridiculous.
idea how we ended up with this silliness.
Jacob.
Oh yeah, it's Max's fault. as
No, it's
always.
not. It's not
It
my
is
fault
Max's fault.
that I bring the based conversations to the YouTube space.
So what book of the Bible were we supposed to be reading?
Oh, that's not how my Hebrew Bible studies.
We're
go.
reading Second
Wait, actually?
Enoch.
Do Jonah.
No,
Second
no,
Enoch
give
is written
context.
in like
Okay.
Capturing foreign women.
Hezi, do you want to
Jake
come on
said.
here and give a Devar Torah?
That's a good
Oh.
idea. Chezi, you should come on here and give it the word Torah.
Well,
he wants
how
a,
do you feel
a
about,
word of the
um,
teaching,
wait,
word of the Torah. Yeah.
What can you do?
Wow, you
Yeah.
understood the word Devar and the word
Of course.
Torah. Good
Of
job.
course, yeah.
What do you,
Jacob.
Jacob, don't. Why are you insulting our guest? You understood.
I
the
think
word.
he is.
He's an adult man. He can Google words.
Oh my gosh. Max is
No, he didn't
insulting the
Google
person
that.
who always insults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, I can try
Justin's
to read
Hebrew
a
is
song.
better than most people's.
Jacob, you're Iranian, right?
I was born in Iran, yes.
So what do you think about the fact that Purim is coming up?
What does that have to do with Iran?
Well,
Purim
I mean, it
takes
was
place
about
in
the
Iran.
Jews of Iran, right?
Yeah,
okay.
but Jacob would have been the Jews in that story.
Yeah,
Is it true
he
you
would've
guys
been
like, it's like
Mordechai.
Halloween?
In
Yeah,
a
there's
sense.
costumes,
Yeah,
there's
people
costumes.
dress up, yeah.
I thought they were supposed. So my wife, she tells me this thing that you're supposed to drink so much that you can't tell the difference between
between Mordechai
curse
Good
and
and
be
evil,
more.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you go to an actual Jewish community, people will be definitely in Orthodox Jewish communities, people definitely drink more than they usually do. I'll say that much.
Dang.
And is that including the children or no?
Most
yeah, sometimes.
people would not. So
They
most
party
people will give wine to their sons who are over 13.
Based.
Yeah.
Based. Alcohol is based.
I mean, Mordechai and Esther could save themselves from the Iranians without waiting on God, and yet you don't think Israel.
What are
can
you
reform-
talking about without waiting on God? Where did you get that from? Did you
Megillat
read
Esther
the
doesn't
book of
have the word
Esther?
God in it.
It doesn't have the word God in it, but it has fasting and prayer and like so. Yeah, you're just.
I think.
God is
Plenty of
God is
Zionists
mentioned in
fast
Greek
and
Esther.
prayer.
God is
Well-
mentioned very explicitly in Greek Esther.
That's because in Greek they didn't understand the word Esther.
What do you mean?
The word
No.
Esther means. What does the word Esther mean, Max?
Hidden.
It means I will hide.
Interesting. Well, I don't think that Christians changed the Book of Esther. I think that was probably a Jewish edition, right?
Of course you would say that.
What
Of
do you
course I
mean?
would. Have you not read the Greek Esther? Have you not read Greek Esther?
I have not read the Greek Esther.
Greek Esther is quite bigger. It's sort of like, how Daniel is bigger in the Greek one too. Where you have like Daniel, the Bell and the Dragon, and the story of Susanna.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about?
But
I've
we're
heard
not
about
we're
Dragon.
not Protestants. We don't just like find books. There's an
I'm-
Old Testament
I'm-
church and a tradition.
Yeah, but you don't believe in that, Max.
Yeah, but I do.
I don't know.
So-
That. You've been talking like a Protestant.
No, oh my God.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I was
So
just-
actually, Greek Esther is actually very different. Actually,
I can believe it.
Yeah, I would actually. I'd recommend. It would be fun actually to read that. Actually, that might be a fun Bible study. You want to read Greek Esther sometime?
Not really.
What
Oh,
about
Jacob, come
I
on.
was just gonna say,
you could read
you
the
know,
Samaritan Torah too.
So
I think Purim is a Zionist holiday.
What?
What?
I mean, I guess the point is, in Megillat Esther, Mordechai and Esther, the Jewish community could save themselves without waiting on a Messiah or without waiting on prophecy in a
What are
way
you
that
talking
people
about?
Kirk,
because
you're trying to make an argument that is kind of true, but you're using a bad example.
it's a bad example.
What you're trying to say is that the rabbinic mainstream is totally paralyzed for no good reason, and Gedolim, again, this sort of fancy
Because of
word,
waiting on God.
Yeah, they believe that we can't do anything. We can't have a country. We can't have a police department. We can't have an army. We can't have anything. We have to just learn in the base medrash, and that there's no Masorah for that, and that's true. But Purim is a bad example because the whole story of Purim is that it's like the deepest expression of God's providence.
But then why doesn't God appear in Megillat Esther?
That you need to read the Lubavitcher's Rebbe's essay on this called Ata Tetzava that addresses
Ata Tetzava has nothing to do with Esther.
5.
what?
Very little to do with Esther.
What? Jacob, what are you talking about?
And we're back at it again.
Ata Tetzava
Rewind
is
the clock.
literally about Mordechai being the Moses of his generation.
He talks about that.
That's the. What is the point of words? It's not about that. He just talks about it at length in the essay.
Rabbi Mullet, I would like to apologize to you for allowing Max on my channel.
Rabbi Mullet seems to not understand.
What is Gedolim?
Gedolim means giants. It
Great
means
rabbinic thinkers,
great
geniuses.
rabbinic minds, and I
I
think there's
don't
a
like
problem with people, unfortunately, misunderstanding. I have nothing against Gedolim, chas
For
v'shalom.
comparison, Gedolim would be like bishops.
I don't think that's but they're not as
Saints, more like
regional
saints, church fathers.
No,
Fathers
no,
is
more like bishops.
I say more like fathers.
More like what?
More like a church father. I mean, they publish books. They have some regional sway, but they're not exactly like.
They're not historical figures. They're people who are alive today and lead
Okay.
the community.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That sounds more like a bishop. Yeah.
But do bishops write books?
Yes, of course.
This reveals a deep Krumkite. You're right, Rabbi.
Sure.
Max is deeply Krum.
But
What is
anyways,
Krumkite?
yeah.
What is Krumkite?
Sounds
it
like
means he is
confused.
on the path to becoming an Epicurus.
Krum. So Krum is German for crooked.
Yeah. But anyways, no, there's a problem.
Max, you got to watch out, man. Pretty soon they're going to put you on a cross.
They've been trying to for 2,000 years. No, but you know, I think that what Kirk is trying to say is that there's an over reliance on, there's kind of an appeal to authority that happens by a certain segment of
my main
Orthodox
point
mainstream
was
that is
just the
so-
idea you need
Max
to wait
is a
on
very
God
nice,
and wait on
well-meaning guy.
prophecy
The
in order to
problem
do
with
anything.
Max is he's a Lutheran.
I'll give you an example, Justin. Have you heard of Techelet? It's the
No.
blue dye that Jews put in their fringes. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
String of
Yeah.
blue.
Lost,
Yep.
right?
So-
Lost or something?
It was lost for many, many centuries, and it was found again, and we have it. And what's interesting is that a lot of people wear it again, even though the majority of people and the majority of big rabbis don't, because they don't have an active tradition of wearing it themselves. Even
But
though
it's mentioned in the Talmud.
of course, and Kabbalah talks about it coming back at the end of days. Well, thank God it's here. But what you find is that because of the reliance on, and I'm not saying actual Gedolim,
You
but
don't
the
wear
concept
Techelet
of-
yourself.
I'm a sinner. I should go out and buy it because it's the same thing as what's described in the Bible. It's the same material. But the problem is that people just worship Gedolim and pick and choose when to listen to them, and it's
that
totally
wasn't
crazy.
my point. That was my point. I was
That
saying
was not-
Mordechai and Esther were the first IDF.
But Rabbi
the
Mullet,
first
you
I've
don't
ever
listen to
Kurt is
Gedolim.
wild on us tonight. What you drinking,
Rabbi-
Kurt?
You don't listen to Gedolim.
Max,
You don't
keep
even learn
on
Hasidus.
spewing. You keep on spewing. Like,
Listen, nobody listens to Gedolim when they don't like what they say, and people listen to Gedolim when they do say it. I'm not against the concept, but it has such sway in people's minds. Yes, worship Gedolim.
he is Rabbi. He is. But,
They worship
but
them.
He's our wacko.
I-
Like
I-
we love him.
You'll notice
We
that
love
nobody's
Rabbi
addressing what I'm saying. It's only name calling.
So, Max-
go back
Max-
to the topic
Max-
of music theory.
Max.
Yeah, Max.
But
you-
you-
Max-
Stop
Max-
interrupting Justin.
Yes.
Everybody's talking over Justin.
Yeah. So I've got this opinion about worship, right? And it's generally that you can't worship at all without offering sacrifice. So are you saying that they offer sacrifices to the Gedolim?
No,
Okay,
They
so
worship
they don't
them-
worship. So they don't worship the Gedolim.
they, not all, some, many, pick and choose when to listen to the advice, whether philosophical or legal, the Jewish religious advice.
So what you're saying is that they're practicing discernment.
They claim to be the recipients and applicators of Jewish tradition, when in truth they are
Rabbi Mullet, this is why I have to
Mostly
consider
they-
like just saying Max, like you are not allowed. Like this is why I keep on interrupting him, because
but
he spews misinformation at a rate that is just beyond the
But you can't
capacity
say
of
what it
normal
is.
people to.
you can't say what it is.
Yeah,
You
I
can't
can.
You're being
I've
lighter
said
on
it
Max
a
than you are
million
on me.
times.
Max, nobody is a pure follower. Nobody.
And nobody should be a pure
Of course,
follower.
no, but
Exactly.
Andrew, but that's my point, is that the kinds of people like people who doubt that Techelis is Techelis think that they're being the pure followers when there's an obvious
Okay, Max, you're
reality in
talking
front of their
about
face.
you are straw manning people who like you don't know. Who are you talking about?
Rabbi Mullet in the chat is a good example.
Rabbi Mullet. First of all, I have no clue if Rabbi Mullet wears techelis or not. He just may, in fact, wear techelis. I'm not sure. If
I hope he does. I hope all Jews
It's
buy
possible
techelis.
that he
I hope
does.
you
which
do
means,
too, Max. I
which
hope
means
you do.
you are just plain. You might just you just completely
Max
just willy
literally called
nilly
a rabbi.
slandered him
Not a
for no
rabbi.
good
No
reason
Lashon
whatsoever.
But anybody who sees as what I'm saying as being against the Gedolim is clearly just not listening.
No,
It's not a matter
Max,
of being against. It's about
Are
picking and
we
choosing.
really arguing about the color blue? I feel like
Yes.
we're arguing.
Yes,
about the color blue.
it's a matter
No,
of
we're
picking and
actually
choosing.
we're
Insulted,
actually
yes.
arguing about whether or not
Really
Max
ask questions.
is
Really
a
just-
Yeah, of course.
whether or not Max is a Lutheran.
I come into this stream and I hear nonsense about a wall made out of wire, and in order to allow you to have the ability to walk around and carry things, even though that's not actually a law. And I hear Jews arguing about the color blue, and I just have to say, thank God I'm a Christian. You know.
Justin,
Tommy, I have to
uh,
apologize to you. We didn't actually talk about animals, so sorry. This is like, if you listen to this, you will hear zero discussion of animals.
Justin, the
Exactly
bottom
like
line.
Fraud said.
But
if you want to read about animals, you can. There are links in the description.
with all due respect, Justin,
Dinosaur?
when Moses
dinosaurs?
saw somebody carrying on the Sabbath, he killed him.
He
So
did.
when you say that Jews are arguing about a string and whether or not you're allowed to carry on the Sabbath, I think what you mean to say is that the prophets of God came with a law, and the law has rules, and the rules are very particular, and they make people from outside of the legal framework confused.
And what you're saying is that a string is a wall
Can
that
I
makes
just
it okay for you to take several city blocks
Justin,
Yeah.
and
first of
turn it
all,
into
first
one
of all,
house.
hold on,
Imagine,
Justin,
imagine.
It's
The answer
it's
is yes.
bull crap. It is
No.
It's
Justin,
not.
Justin,
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 you have
We're not
no
arguing about
idea what you're
lines.
talking about.
you think
the
look,
bottom
it took,
line is Max is arguing that the Halakic methodology, the methodology of deciding Jewish law of current rabbinic leadership, is flawed, and Jacob is defending it.
I don't think it's flawed. I think that we need to listen to it more seriously, even if that means going against the majority. That's what I think.
Yeah, the
Tchelis is-
majority position is
Why?
flawed.
Why, man?
to-
Okay, Rabbi Mullet, I have to say, Rabbi, and I've gone back and forth with Rabbi Breitowitz. Rabbi Breitowitz says there is no reason that he has heard that is a valid halachic reason for not wearing techeles.
Yeah, there is
He
no
said-
halachic reason. Zero.
He said that.
Literally zero.
Safek derata lahumra.
Basically,
So-
yeah.
So
But
you're saying
Rabbi
that-
Breitowitz has the shoulders to say that.
Okay, so are you
I'm just
saying?
quoting him when I say it. So it's I'm
Are we,
not-
we're talking about tzitzit, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're talking about the color blue on the tzitzit,
Yes.
right? And he's taking the position that you don't need to have the color blue.
Okay, so let me explain.
Okay.
So thousands of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
there was a dye which Jews used to make
The tzitzit.
to the blue color,
Okay.
and we stopped making the dye. We stopped having access to the dye
Mhm.
thousands of years ago.
Mhm.
Okay, probably Jesus didn't have the dye. It was very expensive dye, right? So generally, people have been making white tzitzit for thousands of years.
Mhm.
Now,
1,000.
about 150 years ago, a particular rabbi thought that he had discovered the correct dye and how to make it. Generally, everyone agrees that he was actually wrong. but,
Oh, okay. This is sounding very familiar. Okay, go ahead.
but a lot of people took him seriously and started wearing it. And what they generally said was, even if he's wrong, at least, I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Safek derata lahumra.
I know
More
a parallel already.
More recently, the Temple Institute, which is Christian funded, is
Everything's a Christian.
no, just the Temple Institute.
Who are funded by Orthodox Jews, but
No, it's mostly funded by Christians.
Rav Morgenstern wears tchelis, so this argument is
I
not
didn't. I'm just explaining what's going on.
very, very poorly.
Okay. All right.
So the Temple Institute did a lot of archaeological research and scientific research, and quite likely reconstituted the dye as it was made thousands of years ago. So some people, including for example Rabbi Skobach, have started wearing this blue, and it's very expensive, and some people have not. And some people, like Max, think everyone should, but he doesn't do it himself.
Yes.
And some people, like me, say if you really want to, you can go right ahead, but it's very expensive, and I'm not sure it's actually that necessary.
The mitzvah derisa isn't necessary.
I
Okay.
didn't.
derisa.
This kind of reminds me about how
Lahumra.
you forgot the name of God, and
Yeah.
okay, like forgot how to pronounce it, right? Over thousands of years, and now we've got these scholarly guesses of what that name sounds like, right? And what you like, some people will say you can use it, and some people say that you can't. Is that
There
kind
is
of-
nobody in Orthodox Judaism who tries to say the tetragrammaton.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is that this tread, like if you had a rabbi go, oh, actually, I think that the name is pronounced this way, And it's sort of like that, where you forgot something for thousands of years, and now I've got a rabbi who's trying to reintroduce it, and he's meeting some resistance.
Isn't it supposed to be like 48 letters?
No,
you're
it's
thinking of the 42 letter name, and it has nothing to do with what you're talking about. Rabbi Mullet, I don't really know that there are that many people who are who are forcefully against Techelet anymore.
If you look at the sugya, it is.
I'm sorry. You're driving away the only actual Torah scholar we have. Thank you very much.
He should
What
have.
did you even say? I can quote Talmidei Chachamim and Gedolim on this matter. That isn't the point. Oh, you're going to make me.
You can't even finish my sentence. So
yeah, I can.
You're not even thinking. You're just bypassing what is even the matter in the first place.
Rabbi Reisman? I have not heard Rabbi Reisman.
Somebody no right. I think I'm going to listen.
Who's Rabbi Reisman?
My Gedolim are bigger than yours. My Gedolim are bigger than yours.
That's not what he said. You are just plain straw manning him. Did he say that?
Yeah, he did not say those words.
What did he say?
He said, "Listen to Rabbi Yisrael Reisman."
Yeah, listen to what he said, and then you can. So, like, you're just straw manning him.
It's not a straw man to point out the use and misuse of rabbinic authority in modern.
How did he say? Hold on. Where did you see misuse of rabbinic authority?
I see the misuse of rabbinic authority in what Rabbi Mullet said in the following way.
Yeah.
There is a large and rapidly growing number of Torah giants.
Again, hold on. Stop.
Can't even finish a sentence.
No, I'm not going to let you filibuster. Answer the question. How did that? Listen to Rabbi Israel Reisman. How is that my Gedolim are bigger than yours?
Because implied in the statement, you just need to listen to XYZ.
He didn't say you just need to listen. He said listen to someone else, and you decided I don't want to listen to someone else, so listen, I'm going to completely misstate what he said.
The difference between myself and Rabbi Mullet, I will Google this person and hear what he has to say. But will Rabbi Mullet, it isn't in front of me right now, will he pick up, here it is, will he read the following?
I would be surprised if Rabbi Mullet, since he said that he's studied this, I would be surprised if he hasn't studied all of the sources that are in the Hebrew version of that book.
I can promise you that there are sources in here that are outside of the normative halachic framework. It would be impossible
not a good thing.
To read the book. Just read the book.
Why
God gave you two eyes, brother. God gave you two of them.
Outside
read
of
the book.
Halacha.
Hey, Hezi, how you doing?
I'm saying it's not settled.
It's certainly not settled.
I think there are two elements of what Rabbi Mullet said. There's the issue of whether or not it's chelas and the issue of whether or not she's wearing it.
Hezi, you're a
Hezi,
Levite, right?
why are we arguing about blue, brother? I don't.
You're a Levite, right?
First of all, I want to just say, Shavua Tov to everyone. I hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful Sabbath. On behalf of everyone, we obviously are very appreciative of the fact that Rabbi Mullet comes to the stream, that spends time over here, that answers us, and he's a big boy. He can handle people talking to him. We should always remember, though, that he is an ordained rabbi, and we should show him the respect he deserves because of that.
Thank you.
Do people lay hands on a rabbi?
Thank you, Rabbi Mullet. As far as what Max is saying and what Jacob is saying, I haven't hearing all of this because I've been fathering, but I see a lot of these comments over here. ultimately, it's this tension because at some point, and we'll go all the way back to Maimonides, right? He wrote a book at the age of like 28, and he says, you don't have to read other halachic books anymore. You don't have to learn the Talmud anymore. I got it down for you. It's all here. It's all good.
I don't know if that's what
And he
Maimonides
obviously got
actually
some
said.
pushback for that. People were not happy with that. So much so that some of his books were even burnt by other Jews. There's always going to be a tension with reform and renewal and tradition. So we're living that tension right now. There are rabbis like this rabbi in Machon Shiloh. I'm not getting into who he is specifically, which his different shitas, whether it's kitniyot, he's against women wearing, covering their hair with wigs. He has different, which I agree with, by the way, but he has different opinions. And what is undergirding those opinions is the fact, which you're going to disagree with, Jacob. He believes that he's back in the state of Israel and all the theological applications of that as well, which allows you or allows rabbis in Israel, at the very least, to start playing with concepts like Minhag Eretz Yisrael, the Torah of Eretz Yisrael. And the last thing, Jacob, part of that, the counterpart of that is just like there's a growing Noahide movement, and halacha, after 2,000 years of exile, is finally in a position where it could start growing. So too in for the interior development and evolvement of halacha, that is a process. During that process, there's going to be people come out now that Jacob or others might think are heretical or pass over tin window. Time will tell. We'll
Okay,
see.
I have to ask. You don't actually tell your wife she's not allowed to wear a wig, are you?
I tell
I
my wife.
would.
I tell my wife it's your relationship with God and your mitzvah, so you could do whatever you want. I have my position of, so I think like wigs are silly, but do your thing.
Chazi, I
I'm
agree. I
guessing
think
she
that
wears
wigs
Don't
are
a
listen to
wig.
silly.
woman.
What?
Don't listen to woman.
Chazi, I agree. I think that wigs are silly.
I agree.
If you're gonna
but
veil, why
I'm
would you?
also
Why would you
guessing
not
your
veil?
wife wears a wig.
My wife?
No, Chazi's wife.
Does my wife wear a wig? Probably for like events or weddings or things like that. She has gorgeous hair. So usually she just has it covered with some sort of do-rag. Right? She has some sort of wrap around the head.
May I ask
Okay.
a question? So maybe even is Rabbi Molet still here?
He is.
Okay, cool. So, so the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 11 says that a man should not pray with his head covered, and that a woman should pray with her head covered, right? And so you have, obviously, this is contradicting modern Jewish practice of men and women seemingly to both cover their hair. Do you know when the Jewish practice of men always covering their hair popped in? Because I mean, Paul being a Jew first century, he has a different opinion, and I don't see why it would be radically different from anyone else in the
Hold
first
on.
century.
This is in 1 Corinthians?
Yep, 1 Corinthians chapter 11. You want me to read it?
I mean, I can pull it up. I didn't think this was in the authentic letters of Paul.
No, yeah, this is 1 Corinthians 11. Mhm.
Oh, it is. Yeah, here.
Yep.
Um,
So
that's,
I'll read it.
That's surprising. I really did not think this was because, as far as we know, and the Christian practice has been so obviously your priests and bishops cover their head during their prayers.
Sort of.
Yes.
They do.
Sort
Pope.
of. They take off the hat. First of all, priests only have a hat if it as an award, right? So most priests don't even wear a hat. And then the other thing is they
That's
take
not
off
true.
the hat. Huh?
The priests did have hats. There's a difference between
No,
the
no,
hat.
he's talking about Christian priests.
Christian priest.
Sorry.
Yeah. So they would, So like my priest has a hat, but he almost never wears it, right? It's sort of like the thing. And then, but normally those hats are taken off during the anaphora and other parts of the service that are considered like the
But
holiest
not by
part.
bishops. Bishops cover their head.
No, they take theirs off. They take theirs off too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
The
surprising.
the bishop will take the crown off for various, during different times of the
Catholics
service.
certainly don't do that.
I don't know about Catholics, Roman Catholics. I don't know.
Um,
The Pope seems to always wear a kippah, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's probably some variation there between the Eastern and the Western tradition, but I am interested in this 1 Corinthians 11 thing, right? Where Paul specifically talks about a
Yeah.
man.
As far as I know, historically, Jews always did. The only thing I can think of is that he was speaking specifically to Gentiles and telling them not to.
Right. But Rabbi Molit says, I don't know when the constant head covering for men became the norm, but it seems to be post-Talmudic. So
It
he
is
seems-
He means
is
constant, not just during prayers.
It's after
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
after the establishment of the Shulchan Aruch, one of the more famous codifying pieces of work that came in, and that's really where it became more of a norm. I would say I have mixed feelings about a kippah. For example, just to put things in context, Rav Ovadia Yosef, a very prominent rabbi that Jacob likes, and many of us like. He was fantastic. He came to groups of, let's say, Ethiopians that were not accustomed in wearing a yarmulke all day, and he allowed them, basically, for the older generation that was not accustomed to doing this, he told them it's okay if you don't have your kippah at all times. It needs to be on during prayer time or doing a religious act, so to speak. However, that was really for the older generation, and as the generations grew, it definitely has become also a cultural sign as well that identifies with observance and religiosity.
Well,
Just to be clear, there are certain situations in which clearly Orthodox Jews, until very recently, did not. For example, an Orthodox Jewish lawyer who is a criminal defense attorney, I believe the universal practice until very recently was that they would not cover their heads while they were in court, because that could negatively affect their and this actually became an issue because Trump during his second impeachment had an Orthodox Jewish lawyer who didn't cover his head, but he would, whenever he took a drink of water, he would cover his head with his hands, and people noticed, and it became a big, huge thing. And people were like, why is he doing that? And it's because he's an Orthodox Jew. So people have a very big misunderstanding of how important this is, as far it's just a custom that has developed over the years. But covering our heads during prayers, it is ancient. I mean, certainly during temple times, like there were temple garments which were covered. The only thing I was really surprised that this is from one of the authentic letters of Paul. The only thing I can imagine is that he's specifically talking to Gentiles, and I have to say, Rabbi Emmanuel Shochat also was of the opinion that Gentiles going to Jewish synagogues, Gentile men should not cover their head, and women should, which is, funnily enough, the exact same thing that Paul says. I mean,
Interesting.
it very much fits in with the whole Paul within Judaism thing.
Yeah.
If you take that as being just Paul talking to Gentiles.
The Gentiles. Yeah.
Well, from what I understand,
So go ahead.
the idea of a kippah is to remind you God's always watching you.
That's an explanation people have given for over the years.
Yeah.
But it is a custom that has developed that, it is one of the most minor customs, but it's become a huge deal for a lot of people.
So I was gonna. Rabbi Millet says that it can't happen after it can't be that it's post Shulchan Aruch. I think there's different Rishonim that are already talking about it, but it seems like at that time there was not a consensus yet, and most people were just doing it during, in synagogue. So I would say that then it really becomes, and obviously I could be wrong, and he's welcome to.
Well, the Shulchan Aruch itself does say you shouldn't walk 4 cubits without wearing.
Correct. I'm saying, but I would say
so
from that point on.
Shulchan Aruch.
Correct. Post Shulchan Aruch.
Before it.
And I would you guys were talking about like the origins of these things, right? So is it very important? Well, is it very important to recognize that there's something above us and constantly orient us from like a spiritual point of view? The answer is yes. I do think it's a little dividing. It could potentially be seen as divisive in Israel. There's a rabbi that has removed his kippah as a part of a statement saying that he doesn't want to be recognized through the kippah. Rather, he wants to be recognized as Jewish, and there's a spectrum, as in he could be very observant and someone could be not as observant, but you won't look at the kippah and identify them by that.
Who is this guy?
Rav Yuval Sorek.
And he's a respected rabbi?
He's not your. I mean, in let's say, well, even in the Orthodox circles in Israel, it's obviously not really done. So, like, I
have no idea who this guy is, and I've never heard of him before.
I also
I'm
think
trying to be very cautious before calling him a heretic.
There's also an important element of what the kippah kind of has come to replace. God says that Jewish men should wear tefillin, and the assumption, even in the Gemara, is that if you have tefillin and you're able to, you should basically wear tefillin all day. And in a generation like ours and the many generations post-Talmudic, that with the obvious exception of the Gra who wore tefillin all day, if you're not wearing tefillin all day, you're going to have to, something has to sort of sublimate what tefillin are, which are a head covering that represent your allegiance to God and his law. And so the kippah comes and achieves that in the same way that all shacharit, all morning prayers should be done as the sun is rising, and everything after that is a b'diavad. So, it's something where the original intention of God and the original intention of Chazal was one thing, but it's been so long since we've had that kind of national religious consciousness that we basically have to find b'diavads. Wearing a kippah is fine, and it's something Jewish men should do, and it's certainly at this point inscribed in halacha, and everybody should follow halacha. But the lehatchila for Jewish men is to wear tefillin. And when I was in Israel last, I saw some people wearing tefillin out in the street.
Really?
And, yeah, I think they're called the Zilberberg schools. I had heard about them, and I actually saw the kids, like 15, 16-year-old kids with like tefillin on, walking down the street.
What?
Yeah.
Hashem Yerach.
Well, they also
hold on, wait, I'm confused. I thought that
the Talmud talks about not wearing tefillin all the time.
One second, these kids.
Well, the Gra followed the Talmud, obviously. So
I thought that
he wasn't walking around in the streets wearing tefillin.
Well, Jacob, this goes back to what Max
was
was
saying
saying about. This goes back to what Max was saying about one's mindset, right? Like, you have the tefillin. Again, like historically speaking, these are being, according to, let's say, the Zohar, these are being adopted from Egyptian phylacteries, and we have our whole square cube, which is supposed to show, straight lines, basically orienting towards God. and you have a play off you even have this hinted in the Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, because they're both supposed to be symbolizing the snake and the serpent and the eagle, which also represent the two spheres of Bina and Malchut. And this is so these are technologies that we've been trying to embody. And what Max is saying is that if someone can't be in that mindset the whole time, we wanted to have like a lesser version of that in a certain sense. And you have a kippah that is always reminding you of doing such things. I would say the Buddhists, that when they eat their food, they wash their hands and rub.
Okay, you're talking about something completely different than what I'm talking about, Chazi. You're
Sure.
talking about
I don't think so,
16-year-old boys walking through the streets wearing tefillin all day.
They're listening to the Mashpiyim. They're
That's how they
listening to the
relate to
Rebbe.
God.
Yeah, who are you or anybody?
No.
to say
Hold
otherwise?
on.
That's
Who
their
is-
Masorah.
spirituality.
They have a Masorah.
Stop
they have a
it.
Masorah.
Okay, who is telling people to do this?
Who's
They're
telling
Mashpiyim.
people to do what?
For 16-year-old boys to walk around in the streets of Israel wearing tefillin all day.
For the
Zilberberg School.
What's the Zilverberg school?
There's a rabbi.
it's in the old city.
Yeah, you can see him.
What is a Zilver? Can you please explain to me what's going on here?
There's
Who are
a-
these people?
There is a Talmud of the Gra. I think his name is Zilberberg or Silberberg or something like that. Who
I tried Googling Zilverberg and school, and all I got was schools in Germany.
I'll find it. I'm looking for it now.
Hezi.
Yes,
Because
Are you actually a Levite?
I am.
Sorry, Zilberman.
That's pretty cool.
Yeshivas Aderes Eliyahu is a city. Is a yeshiva in the old city, and it says as follows: although in many ways a traditional Haredi yeshiva, it differs from most yeshivas in its commitment to the following the teachings of the Vilna Gaon. They wear tcheles, they wear tefillin all day, and you can see occasionally the Bachram walking around.
Jacob, if you're upset about this, I could say yes. The kids are super wild. They fight with my kids' students all the time. So, like, you could be like, are they?
Hold on, these aren't Tahorim and Kedoshim. They're just wild 16-year-olds walking around with tefillin all day.
What do you mean wild? They're Bachram. What do you?
The boys?
Hezi,
Boys.
Yeah.
Oh my
are
god!
Levites allowed to marry converts?
Yep.
Oh, okay, so it's just a Cohen thing.
Just the Cohen.
See,
I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
I
This
think
guy
this
is supposedly Haredi.
See, this is the no true Scotsman of Gedolim theology. When the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that even bar mitzvah boys should wear Rabbeinu Toms, you could
Okay.
who are you to argue with him?
Max, okay. So you don't understand the concept of Musar, you don't understand the concept of halacha, and you have no idea how to learn
breathe,
anything.
Max. Breathe.
So
It's just-
you say all kinds of weird things. That's dealing with that is completely different from trying to understand how somebody who's considered an actual rabbi apparently is telling wild 16-year-olds to walk around with tefillin.
What do you mean wild?
He's telling me these guys fight with his kids.
My point was that my only point was to Jacob is that, like, you weren't claiming, Max, that these are all like saintly boys that just yes, correct. They're and Jacob, to your point, this is not prevalent. Most people don't do this. So you're going to say there's a school over here that's trying to do something, trying to have his kids up their game, so to speak, right? My father, at the end of when he finishes his prayer with his Rashi, he takes it off, puts on his Rabbeinu Tam, finishes his prayer, and then he finishes, right? So he puts it on.
Yeah, that's a very similar thing to what the Rebbe is like. Oh, Tomchei Tamimim, they should put on Rabbeinu Tams in the synagogue not walking around like.
Well, they have a different derech and a different
No,
avoda and
they
a
don't
different
have a different
masorah.
derech. These people are just being mavaza tefillin.
No, Jacob. They're,
Who-
Jacob. They're.
How do you know that?
Because they're 16-year-old boys fighting with Chazi's kids in the old city, walking around wearing tefillin.
Jacob, do you care about not speaking Lashon Hara?
Yeah, I mean,
Is it Lashon Hara when?
This stop. Like,
All right.
I'm having a serious discussion with Chazi, and your silliness is not welcome here. Chazi, what is the heter for this? How is this person considered someone real?
People wore tefillin all day.
Yes, holy people, not 16-year-old boys fighting with your sons wearing tefillin.
So
maybe they're trying to be holy. They're trying to
Just to be
get
Okay,
there.
Max, shot.
So Jacob, what Max sees walking around the old city, when you see these kids and these bachrim, and to be fair, like Max says, it's not like 2-year-olds, it's older kids. And the idea is that they're not doing this when they're going home or when they're playing soccer. They're doing this after prayer while they're learning. Usually it goes on to like their first Seder of the day. So basically around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they're usually taking it off. But the attitude is try to maintain your holiness status as much as you can. And one way, which you would say would be very risky, they would say like sort of ups the ante, which is if you have your phylacteries on throughout the day, means that you're not going to be able to say certain words, which you anyway shouldn't say, and you're going to have to be more mindful of how you're behaving. So the attitude is while they're studying, which anyways you would argue, Jacob, that which you've seen in the past, right? I finish my prayer time, and now after prayer time's over, I'm also going to give a little class in the synagogue still, or in the study hall.
Yeah,
I might still wear my phylacteries on and still teach the class. So
that's
it's
completely different from walking around wearing tefillin.
Wait,
what's the halachic basis for them being a difference?
So,
okay, if you had actually studied the Shulchan Aruch, you would know.
then.
Okay. Well, let me know where.
The laws of tefillin in the Shulchan Aruch
say you're not allowed to wear them outside of the synagogue.
Says you have to keep a guf naki.
Yes.
And it talks about the requirements of a guf naki, which includes not having any extraneous thoughts,
but
which includes all kinds of things, which means you don't just walk around stam wearing tefillin.
But the people that do this and their rebbeim that they're listening to and their mashpiim that they're listening to, they know those halachas.
I don't know that, Max, because they obviously don't seem to be following those halachas.
That's we just went in a circle.
No, we didn't at all. You were not aware of the halachas of wearing tefillin, so you were making all kinds of weird, you just didn't understand the context in which I was speaking, so you have no idea what I was asking.
No, that's not what just happened.
That is exactly what just happened.
I believe that what they're doing is totally acceptable. Who am I to say it's acceptable?
Yeah, who are you to say? You didn't even know that the Shulchan Aruch has a din of guf naki.
But I know that it has a din of guf naki.
I'm saying that these. What does guf naki mean?
Clean body. And these boys and
it's not just that.
Yeah, it's clean. I mean, there are Levital.
Just Max, you must be aware though that so there was an issue with
gentlemen, I have to go to bed.
Good night, sir.
Good night, Justin.
There was an issue with Yohara.
Yep,
What's Yohara in Hebrew? Yohara is
Yohara is
thinking too much of yourself, but too big of an ego.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some that say that, if you're one person walking around, because you have to be in the mindset that you're not going to be distracted and you're going to be in this holy mindset. Mm-hmm. And are you saying that you're this dude? And if you're saying that you're this dude, you're already risking, sort of playing an ego game of saying, look at me, I'm this pious person. Having said that, there has been more leniency with that opinion. If you're walking with a group of 10, 20 people that all have your tefillin on, then it's not that you as an individual are considered that you have Yohara. But generally speaking, So that's their claim. Their claim is that we're studying right now where it's not one individual. We're doing this together, and that's why we're not risking those issues. We don't have a sechadat. Our mind is still clean during those times. Jacob could say, as a society today and as people today, we're no longer at that level, right? There's Yeridat Dorot, which I, in a certain sense, disagree with, and because of that, no one's in that mindset anymore. So, and Jacob would be right that there has been many cases where I could see, let's say, these two kids walking in the old city, and they're probably just like talking nonsense, and at that point, it's a problem.
Yeah.
But obviously, you could say that's too much of a risk.
Yeah, I mean, I just, this is not how the Torah works, where you're just not allowed to do something, even if halacha allows you to do it, even if your Rebbeim allow you to do it, even if there's a Masorah, back to the gra of the Indian of wearing tefillin after davening in the first place. This idea of, well, you're just not allowed to do that, even if you have literal Rebbeim saying...
You are in no way engaging with anything that Chazi and I said.
I am. I'm piggybacking.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
But Jacob, I think he's engaging on it from like a principle matter, which is
by straw manning things I never said.
No, Jacob. Everything Chazi said is true, okay? And it's what the Rebbe said about Rabbeinu Tom's. Even if a 12-year-old boy doesn't understand what he's doing when he puts on Rabbeinu Tom's, doesn't mean he can't do it. Adarabba, that person... He's training to be a bar mitzvah boy. He's 12 and 3/4.
See, this is the thing. I was talking about something which should be pasha to somebody who's having this discussion, which is there's obviously many isurim, right?
Of wearing tefillin in public?
Of wearing tefillin in the wrong way.
That's not what halacha says.
Yes,
it doesn't say
you
in the wrong way.
You didn't even know.
Yeah, yes, I knew.
Max, you're making things up.
No,
you have no clue. I just told you in the Shulchan Aruch, you apparently have no idea
Jacob,
that the Shulchan Aruch has all of these rules about when you're not allowed to put on tefillin.
Who are you talking to? You think I don't know the Shulchan Aruch tells you when to wear tefillin and when not to wear tefillin? It tells you not to wear them in the bathroom when you're physically unclean, when you're thinking about things you shouldn't be thinking about, when you're doing things that are that you shouldn't be wearing tefillin while doing. Walking in the old city is not any of those things. And the Rebbeim that are telling their Talmidim to do this are not making things up, and they're not lying about what the Shulchan Aruch says. They know the Shulchan Aruch because the kids memorize it.
Yeah, but Max, arguably you would say, okay, we live in a world today, right, where saying I'm not going to be distracted or like making sure my mind is clean. So, we spoke about this once, this Pirkei Avot, right? If I'm walking down the street and I stop to bless the tree, right? So like, am I going to be distracted from that? Or if I have my tefillin on my head, am I still looking down at the poster that I'm looking at, and the fact that you have posters today of women, and the fact that there's seminary girls walking around the old city? So is my mindset actually going to be...
As if it's just the seminary girls and not the tourist girls wearing bikinis.
True, Jacob. But what Max is saying, though, like, okay,
16-year-old
and this is the rub. At some point, right, Rabbi comes and says, you know what, I think with the conditions I set up, I could offer this to my students right now. You're going to come out and say, that's nuts. You're still risking Yohara, and you're still risking them failing. He's going to say, like, I think the conditions I set up can still allow for this, where this could be done halachically. Yeah. So, yes, that could be happening. And it's a critical mass sort of point thing. It's always going to be pushing eating kitniyot right now. Everyone says no until enough people are going to say yes, and then it's going to be what the deal is.
Yeah. What you're saying is true, and touching on the critical mass thing is so important. And there's so many halachic examples of that. I think techelos and kitnios are bigger ones than the tefillin one. But this tefillin issue, which to me is a really, like, when I saw it, I was mesmerized. I was mesmerized by two things in Jerusalem. The one were the Breslover women that cover head to toe. I'd never seen that in my life. Right? They wear the second. Yeah.
Are you talking about Lev Tahor?
Yeah, that's a Lev Tahor.
No, I'm talking about Breslov women. Their kids have nanach kippahs, and they are covered head to toe in black. I'd never seen
Wait,
that
wait,
in my
wait,
life.
wait. What do you mean? Just clarify, because I think this is where the confusion is. What you mean
Mhm.
head to toe? Because there's left to her, which is I can't see your eyes.
I could not see her face. I could not see her
burqa?
face. Full
So
burqa.
that is very rare to see in Breslau. If you mean that she's fully covered, but I could see her face, that makes sense.
Fully covered, I could not see her face. She was walking with kids who had nanach kippahs. Hand to God. If you
I
think
would
that,
say that is-
it's very, I know that it's rare.
Sounds
Hold on, I'm
crazy.
not making a comment. Here. I'm saying, Jacob, let's all relax.
Like, why would you think this is a good thing?
I don't think it is a good thing. It's actually something that many Rebbeim have come out against.
Yeah.
Because there's a chiyuv of women being distinct from one another. But I'll finish the sentence, which sometimes on Jacob doesn't always appreciate the ends of sentences. I saw two things in walking around Jerusalem that I'd never seen in my entire life. And they fascinated me, and I think about them often. One was when I was walking in the Shuk Erev Shabbat, and I saw a woman with a nanach kippah kid wearing head to toe black. I stopped in my tracks. I'd never seen that in my life, and I had to ask somebody at Maya Note, like, what's that all about? The other was walking in the Old City and seeing teenagers with tefillin on. And to me, I'm a big fan of the texture of life and diversity, even though I'm never going to be seen wearing tefillin out in public, and my wife is not going to cover her face with a black veil. It fascinated me and kind of intrigued me in a deep way that there was more of a spectrum of Jewish observance and Jewish religious philosophy than I'd ever seen in my life. And even if those are opposite extremes, they fascinated me. And I had a real like Proustian moment kind of walking in the Shuk and seeing that woman. And I had the same moment again in the Old City.
Well, just
Now I remember you're a big fan of
James Joyce.
Of James Joyce. Yeah,
Remind
that makes perfect sense.
I
That
like how
explains, Rabbi Mullet. You were wondering, that's what's corrupted it.
That's not an
there
argument.
was always 12 tribes, Max, and they had
Yes.
different versions of how they interpreted.
And there's only 12 tribes, not 144.
That is
Thank
also
you.
true.
Right.
And
But
Max, the flip side of that is like when I see the kids with the tefillin in the Old City, I can't help but be reminded by my campers in Camp Lavi whipping themselves with their tefillin straps throughout the whole prayer. And for me, coming from Israel to this, thinking I'm fairly Anglo, coming to an American camp, I was like, I don't know if Mashiach's coming. Like, this is not good. Like I was like, I never in my life witnessed kids fight, like even bad kids in school. I never in my life witnessed kids whip themselves with their tefillin straps, and that's why, while I could say, he said, listen, Chazi, there's some that are more holy and pious, and there's some kids that are jerks. The attitude is kids today, right? And also this is to Jacob's point, which maybe he disagrees, but I think Jacob's reaction would have been different if you told him there's a group of rabbis that does this.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, there's a group of, let's say, kids that does it, because then the attitude is like, okay, so we're comfortable enough, or this rabbi is comfortable enough, let's say, risking this kid's mitzvah / avera status, thinking like, no, this kid's he's mature enough. Because the same kid maybe also yesterday tried to switch his kosher phone into like a regular phone and was like downloading porn, right? And that doesn't make the kid like an evil kid, and he shouldn't, like, it's all good. God loves him. But the question is like, do we want to put on top of him that extra layer of exposure of saying like, you also have tefillin on your head? So I understand about being very wary about that. But I also, to you, Max, those to me are data points of Jews in Israel bucking against the system in a I think a healthy fashion, which is like, we want change, we want more.
And your point about Americans is really well taken. I used to think that the problem with like most with Chabad is an exception in this way, and it's an exception to a lot of things, but like a lot of Ashkenazi kind of like English speaking American Jewish life, Orthodox life, I used to think, they're really stark and they're kind of cold and they're closed off. and people like me or people like my friends, like if a friend of mine who knows that I like keep Shabbos, if he said like I want to go with you to shul one day, I don't even know where I'd take him because people are just very, they're set in their way. But I realized that that might be true. But what's also true is that Anglo Jewry, they do not take the Torah seriously at all enough. And there's a really funny story about, I think it was the son of Rav Kook, Rav Tzvi Yehuda Kook, Zal. Somebody asked him about Zionism. It's actually in a book called 9.5 Mystics. Herbert Weiner asked him about Zionism and secularism and religion and all these things.
I want you to continue. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm switching off to just listening mode. I'm going to try to join you guys in a few more minutes, but please continue talking.
Yeah,
I'll just finish. I'm just going to finish the thought.
Yeah.
He was asking the son of Rav Kook all of these things, and Rav Tzvi Yehuda Kook said, "Listen, in my world, the religious should be more religious, and the free thinkers should think more freely." Meaning, like, take yourself seriously. And I don't know if American Jews are always taking themselves as seriously as they need to.
Max, you can continue this if you want to.
I've got it all out of my system.
Thank God. I think I'm gonna end the stream because I've had enough of like trying to wade through all of the ignorance you've spouted tonight.
And you failed. I mean, you tried and failed.
Apparently, yes, I was drowning.
You tried to make your case and failed.
I was completely drowning.
You failed.
One of these days, I hope so my big thing has always been and continues to be that I like to elevate voices of people who know what they're talking about and reduce the amount of noise created by people who don't know what they're talking about. And I'm going to have to seriously think about whether I'm going to allow you to be on my channel anymore. But hopefully it won't be a problem because you will indeed start learning more and actually know what you're talking about. And then there won't be so much ignorance coming out of your mouth.
You say ignorance,
okay.
But in this